When we do get to the delegation item for which you've pre-registered, you'll be brought into the meeting as a panelist, and you will be introduced in speaking order, and then you can unmute your mic at that point in time to address committee. And delegations are provided 5 minutes, up to 5 minutes, to address committee on a particular issue. And if you choose to use your video, that is at your discretion if you wish to turn that on or not. After your delegation, and after the matter's been dealt with, you will be returned to the attendee list where you will continue to watch and observe the meeting, or if you so choose, you can leave the meeting at that point in time. Thank you, and I'll do another announcement at about 5 to 7. Thank you. Hi, Daniel. It's Peter. How are you?
Hi, Peter. Good. How are you?
Good. You're coming through loud and clear, so all should be fine for tonight.
Perfect.
Thanks. Good evening, Shelby. It's Peter. How are you?
Hi, Peter. I'm good. How are you?
Good. You're coming through loud and clear, so everything should be fine for tonight.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Councillor Bowman.
Good evening, Peter. How are you tonight?
Good. You're coming through loud and clear. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good evening, Councillor Willens. Can we just test your audio, please?
Yep. Good evening. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
You're coming through loud and clear. Thank you.
How about my Senators' big win last night, eh?
I'm sorry?
My Senators' big win last night.
Yes, yes.
We'll talk later.
And Montreal's big win on Saturday, and that'll probably be the last one for the year for them, unfortunately. Good evening, Councillor Singh. Can we test your audio, please? Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's March 8th Planning and Development Committee meeting. The committee meeting will get underway at 7 o'clock or shortly thereafter. Just a few reminders for city staff. If you are speaking this evening during the meeting, the administrative directive is that please turn on your video if you can, so the committee members can see you as you're addressing the committee. For all other public delegates, when it is your turn to speak, it's at your discretion if you wish to turn on your video or not. And just a reminder for everybody, unless you have the floor to speak, please ensure that your microphone is off when you're in the meeting as a panelist. It just reduces the amount of feedback and background noise so the rest of the participants in the meeting can hear the proceedings this evening. Thank you very much, and we should get started shortly after 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Sound check, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Vicente.
And that's a sound check for myself as well, Peter. It's Councillor Santos.
Thank you, Councillor Santos. I see
Good
Councillor
evening,
Fortini.
Yep.
Thank you.
Peter, just one correction. On 7.2, it says Ward 6. It should be Ward 8. Cottrell? Location?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Fortini. We'll ensure that that's corrected.
Yep.
Item 7.2.
Yep. That's Ward
So
8.
the committee minutes will reflect that change.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And good evening, Councillor Paleshi.
Good evening, Peter. How are you?
Very good. How are you? You're coming through loud and clear.
Very good. Happy International Women's Day to everybody. Or at least to all the women.
You're such a good ally there, Councillor Paleshi.
Councillor Singh, can we just test your audio, please?
Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing.
Great. Thank you, Councillor.
Good evening, Peter.
Good evening, Chair Medeiros. You're coming through loud and clear. And it looks like all members are present. We're still waiting for Councillor Dillon. I have not seen him join the meeting yet. And it is just before 7 o'clock, and I believe that we'll get the live stream started momentarily, and then we can start at 7. So yes, Mr. Chair, it is 7 o'clock. You do have quorum present. You can proceed.
Thank you very much, Peter. Good evening and welcome to our virtual meeting of Brampton's Planning and Development Committee. This meeting will be held through remote electronic participation in accordance with the Municipal Act 2001. City Council has authorized virtual meetings of its committees and members participating remotely to facilitate the continuation of city business during the current pandemic. We will begin the meeting with the city clerk calling the roll call.
Members of committee, I will be calling your name. Please indicate your presence. Councillor Dillon? I don't see Councillor Dillon in the meeting at the moment. Councillor Singh?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Fortini?
Here.
Thank you. Councillor Williams?
I'm here.
Thank you. Councillor Bowman?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Paleshi?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Willens?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Vasante?
I'm here.
Thank you. Councillor Santos?
Present.
Thank you. And Chair Medeiros is present. There are 10 members present, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Our next item is approval of the agenda. Does any member wish to add?
Sorry, Mr.
business-
Chair, that's my mistake. It's 9 members.
Okay, not a problem. Our next item is approval of the agenda. Does any members wish to add a business item to tonight's meeting? Okay, I see none. So we have a motion moved by Councillor Fortini to approve the agenda, that the agenda for the regular Planning and Development Committee meeting of March 8th, 2021 be approved. Is there anyone opposed to this motion? Okay, the motion carries. Meetings of municipal councils are to be open to the public for transparency and accountability. Our meetings will continue to be as well with a few precautions and limitations. In-person attendance at this meeting is very limited. The public can still access and participate in the meetings in a number of ways. Watching this meeting remotely through the city's live stream and playback of the archived video stream, registering with the city clerk's office as a virtual delegate, and one can submit questions about the agenda, business, and decisions made by committee today by emailing the city clerk's office at cityclerksoffice@brampton.ca with your question, which could be read out also during the question period for the meeting. Also, I would ask everyone continue to follow Brampton.ca for important service and public health updates. Declarations of interest on the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Do any members have a declaration of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for any matter to be considered on today's agenda? No. Okay, so now we go to our consent motion. Committee, as part of our new consent motion process, I will read each, or I will get the city clerk to read each agenda item that is subject to the consent motion, and any member may identify the item to be held for debate. Any item not held for debate will be considered as part of the consent motion and voted for their approval. Any of the following agenda items will not be subject to the consent motion for approval. I'll hand it over to you to city clerk. I believe there's only one item, is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. The only item identified for potential consent this evening is 8.1 minutes, Cycling Advisory Committee of February 16th.
Does anyone want to hold it? No? Okay, so we'll move that into consent. So the following items, I do have a motion, my apologies, moved by Councillor Santos to approve the consent motion, that the following items were considered to be routine and non-controversial by committee and were considered at one time. 8.1 minutes, Cycling Advisory Committee, February 16th, 2021. As per our trial process agreed by council, the consent motion will be subject to a recorded vote.
All in favor, please indicate. Councillor Singh? Councillor Singh?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Fortini? Thank you. Councillor Williams?
Yes.
Councillor Bowman?
Yes.
Councillor Paleshi?
Yes.
Councillor Willens?
Yes.
Councillor Vasante?
Yes.
Councillor Santos?
Yes.
Chair Medeiros?
Yes.
That carries 9-0, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Our next item, statutory public meeting reports. Our next section of tonight's agenda is the statutory public meeting items. This is a public meeting of the Planning Development Committee held in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act of Ontario. The proposals to be heard at this public meeting are the result of applications made under the Planning Act. These are not proposals of the City of Brampton unless they are specifically identified as city-initiated proposals. Tonight, we do not have any city-initiated proposals. The intent of the public meeting is to receive submissions from the public regarding these proposals. Given we may have persons watching this meeting through the city's live stream, we will have staff present each proposal item to a statutory public meeting unless committee decides otherwise. After receiving any pre-registered delegations, members of the committee may ask questions for clarification, but will not engage in debate or on the proposal at this time. Committee consideration of the proposal will occur at a future meeting when planning staff bring forward the final recommendation report on each proposal. The city has also posted to its website, brampton.ca, supporting information and documentation for these development applications for public review and reference. We will now proceed to consider the 3 items on this evening's statutory public meeting agenda. After consideration of these public meeting items, committee will deal with the balance of the agenda items on tonight's agenda. So item 5.1, application to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw, KLM Planning Partners, Labosco Developments Incorporated. I will now ask Daniel Watchorn from the Development Planning, Building and Economic Development Committee. Welcome, Daniel.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Thanks to members of the committee and members of the public. My name is Daniel Watchorn, and I am the planner assigned to process this application. It was submitted by KLM Planning Partners on behalf of Labosco Development, Inc., who are the owner. And the purpose of this public meeting is to provide information to the public and seek feedback on this application. So next slide, please. So the location of the application is at 10808 Airport Road, which is at the intersection of Airport Road and Yellow Avens Boulevard. It is within the Springdale Secondary Plan, and it is located in Ward 10. Next slide, please. So the proposal is to permit a convenience commercial development consisting of 2 commercial buildings that would have a combined GFA gross floor area of 720 square meters, which is roughly 7,700 square feet, with one of the buildings including a drive-through. This would require an amendment to both the official plan or secondary plan and the zoning bylaw to permit the use. Public notice of this statutory public meeting and of the application was delivered by mail to all properties that are within this 240-meter radius of the property, as you see on your screen. Notice was also provided within the Brampton Guardian newspaper and has been posted on the City of Brampton website. Next slide, please. So this is an aerial view of the site, as you can see again at the northwest corner of the intersection of Airport Road and Yellow Avens Boulevard. Directly to the north is low-rise residential development. To the east is Airport Road, and then further to the east is more low-rise residential. Directly to the south is low-rise convenience retail uses, and then to the west is both the Odlum Valley and low-rise residential. Next slide, please. So this is just an aerial view of the site. So we are to the south, looking to the north, just to give a bit of additional context to the subject property. Next slide, please. So now we'll go a little bit more into detail on the proposal. So again, this is a proposal for an amendment to the official plan, secondary plan, and zoning bylaw. The purpose is to permit 2 low-rise commercial buildings. Building A is a 223 square meter convenience restaurant with a drive-through or restaurant use as proposed. And proposed for building B is a 519 square meter day nursery, again as proposed. There are a number of other commercial type uses that are contemplated in the proposal for the zoning bylaw, but that is those 2 uses are what are currently considered for these buildings. There's 46 parking spaces that are shown on the site. Access would be from Yellow Avens Boulevard, so there are 2 points of access, but both of them are on Yellow Avens. And there's a Brampton Transit stop that is along Airport Road, directly adjacent to Building A. Next slide, please. So here we have the elevations for the buildings. So the first one we're showing here is for Building A, which again is the proposed restaurant building directly at the intersection. The eastern elevation, as you can see in the top left, is what would be facing the intersection of Yellow Avens and Airport Road. and then the other orientation of the building as per how it's cited on site. So next slide, please. So this is building B, which is the proposed day nursery. The southern elevation is what would be facing Yellow Avens Boulevard and what would be most visible from the street. Next slide, please. So this is a summary of the planning framework. So this application is going to be evaluated based on all of the documents that you see on screen. So the Planning Act, the Provincial Policy Statement, Growth Plan for the Great Golden Horseshoe, the Regional and City Official Plan, and various design guidelines that are applicable to the site. Next slide, please. So the current official plan designation is residential. The residential designation is relatively general and contemplates a wide variety of both residential and complementary uses to it. So limited commercial development can be contemplated within the residential designation, subject to the various different schedules and secondary plans. These lands are not currently identified on the retail structure and are also further designated as highway commercial in the secondary plan. Which is where the need for this official plan amendment comes from. So the highway commercial designation in the secondary plan only contemplates uses for the traveling public, which generally are auto-oriented uses, so service stations and motor vehicle washing establishments. The convenience, retail, and commercial uses are not permitted, and therefore this amendment is required. Next slide, please. So the current zoning bylaw is zoned for highway commercial 2 with a special section designation. This zoning pretty much reflects exactly that secondary plan designation. So it only permits the service station and motor vehicle washing establishment. So again, zoning bylaw amendment is required to introduce the uses that the applicant is requesting here. Next slide, please. So through the comprehensive review of the site and the development, we are comparing against those policies that were earlier highlighted, the Planning Act, Growth Plan, etc. But we are also looking into a number of specific issues with the proposal, with the site plan and their proposed amendments. So the appropriateness of a drive-through at this location is one of the issues that we are currently working through, ensuring that this does comply with modern site planning standards and, of course, the general intent and purpose of our official plan and other planning documents, and as well as the ability for the development to adhere to the city's sustainability requirements and any and all other technical and engineering related matters that are to be addressed through the processing of this application. Any potential issues that are raised through this processing will be addressed through a further recommendation report on this proposal. Next slide, please. So this slide gives a highlight or an overview of the processing of this application to date. So a notice of complete application was issued on December 17th, 2020. Circulation to our various technical departments and external agencies has been completed. And a notice of this public meeting was issued on February 11th. We will be receiving all comments from the public, both at this meeting. We have received some to date and will continue to receive comments should anybody have any and respond to them in tow as we continue the processing of this application. We will continue to assess it against our various different policy documents and by our internal staff to ensure that it meets both the policy and technical requirements. And ultimately, we'll be bringing a recommendation report forward where any and all issues that have been highlighted through the processing, both and by the public, will be addressed. Once a decision is made on the application by City Council, there is an opportunity to appeal the decision to the local planning appeal tribunal should anyone wish to do so, anyone who has delegated. Next slide, please. So again, my name is Daniel Watchburn. I am the city planner contact for this. The applicant information is up on the screen, Alistair Shields from KLM Planning. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to assist. And that's about it for this presentation. So thank you.
City Clerk, do we have any delegations?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do not. The applicant is present should there be any questions, and all we have is correspondence under item 11.4.
Thank you very much. Do members of the committee have any questions? No? Okay, so I do have a motion moved by Councillor Singh to approve staff report recommendations and correspondence that the report titled Information Report Application to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw, KLM Planning Partners, Labosco Developments Incorporated, 10808 Airport Road, Ward, oh, that says Ward 4, but it should be Ward 9, is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, it should be Ward 9, I believe. Ward 9.
Yeah.
Sorry, through the chair, I believe it's Ward 10, actually, that's what it said.
Okay, just make that correction because I have in my notes Ward 4. So Ward 10 to the Planning Development Committee meeting of March 8th, 2021 be received and Planning Development Service staff be directed to report back to the Planning Development Committee with the results of the public meeting and the staff recommendations subsequent to the completion of the circulation of the application and comprehensive evaluation of the proposal that corresponds item 11.4 being received. Is there anyone that opposes to this motion? No? Okay, there are no objections, so the motion carries. Statutory public meeting for this item is now adjourned. So we now move on to our next item, 5.2, application to amend the official plan zoning bylaw, Glen Schnar, Umbria Developers. So I will hand it over now to Himanshu Katyal, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, and the public. My name is Himanshu, and I am the planner assigned to process and review this application to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw. Please note that the committee will not make a decision today. The purpose of this meeting is to provide information to the public and seek feedback. Next slide. The subject lands are located at 1030 Queen Street West at the intersection of Queen Street and Chinkuzi Road. There is currently an existing single-story building which is being used as a private school. This building is a listed heritage building under the Ontario Heritage Act. Next slide. Surrounding land uses include Paramoto Park to the north and west, Queen Street West to the south, beyond which are existing commercial uses, Chinkuzi Road to the east, beyond which are existing low-density residential uses. Next slide. So the application proposes an official plan and zoning bylaw amendment to permit a 15-story residential apartment building with 179 units and retain the existing heritage building on site. The unit count includes the 61 one-bedroom units, 89 two-bedroom units, and 29 three-bedroom units. The existing heritage building will be relocated on the site and integrated with the proposed development, as shown on the elevation drawing on the slide. There will be a GFA of about 15,000 square meters and an FSI of 5.3, as well as 218 parking spaces within 3 levels of underground parking. There will be also 193 bicycle parking spaces. The proposed vehicular access will be from Queen Street. Next slide. The subject lands are designated residential, and a small sliver of the land on the northern boundary is designated open space. The residential designation is to permit a broad range of residential uses that range from single detached to apartment units. Further, Queen Street is designated as a primary intensification corridor in the official plan. The part of Queen Street that is designated the primary intensification corridor starts from the intersection of Chinkuzi Road and continues to the eastern end of the city. An amendment to the official plan will be required to permit this development. Next slide. The Credit Valley secondary plan designates the property as low density to residential, as well as heritage resource designation. The low density residential designation permits single detached, semi-detached, and townhouse units with a maximum combined density of 28 units per hectare. The heritage resource designation identifies the heritage building on this site and provides policies for its preservation. An amendment to the secondary plan is required to permit this development. Next slide. Similarly to the secondary plan, the Credit Valley block plan designates the property as heritage. The aim of the block plan is to identify principles for architectural and landscape design so that a cohesive community identity can be established. An amendment to the block plan is required to permit this development. Next slide. The subject lands are currently zoned a site-specific service commercial zone, which permits business and professional uses, private day school, and accessory uses. An amendment to the zoning bylaw will be required to permit this development. Next slide. So now moving on to the official plan and secondary plan amendment. The amendments will redesignate the lands from the existing low-density residential designations to high-density residential designations in the secondary plan and the block plan to permit this development. Next slide. In the zoning bylaw amendment as well, the application will propose to rezone the property to a residential apartment zone with some site-specific provisions so that this development can be permitted with respect to certain setbacks, height, and lot coverage requirements. Next slide. At this time, staff has noted the following issues that will need to be addressed. Confirmation that the proposed access from Queen Street West will adequately accommodate the traffic to the site. Whether the proposed development demonstrates that it meets the criteria outlined in the official plan to exceed the maximum height and density limits. Whether there will be no negative shadowing impacts to the surrounding uses. Confirmation is required that the site design will integrate the existing listed heritage building with the new development based on adaptive reuse while preserving its heritage features. And lastly, whether adequate amenity area will be provided for the future residents. Next slide. Prior to finalizing recommendations to council, this application will be further evaluated for consistency with the Planning Act, Provincial Policy Statement, conformity with the Growth Plan, the Region of Peel Official Plan, and the City of Brampton Official Plan, as well as the design guidelines. Next slide. Staff will continue the review of this application, including reviewing the comments from the public. Staff will at a later date advance a final recommendation report to council for a decision. Issues that have been raised will be addressed in the recommendation report. Staff will contact and follow up with those residents who have provided comments through all channels. Next slide. The report and the submitted materials associated with tonight's meeting are available online. The presentation will also be available online shortly. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact myself, my manager, or the applicant. The information is posted on this slide. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. City Clerk, do we have any delegations?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we do. We have a delegation from the Patrick Pearson from Glen Schnarr & Associates on behalf of the applicant, and there is a presentation to accompany that, and we also have correspondence item 11.2 regarding this item. So Patrick is in the meeting, and Patrick, we're going to bring up your presentation momentarily. And you can unmute your mic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Are you able to hear me? Okay, great.
Just bring up your presentation momentarily.
Okay.
You can proceed. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, well, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, and members of the public. My name is Patrick Pearson with Glen Schnarr & Associates. I am a planner, and we are the planning consultant who represent the applicant and the owner of the subject property. Thanks for providing that background information, Himanshu. I'll try not to duplicate any of your information, but I've provided a brief presentation which will highlight some of the design elements and key features of the proposal. So we're also here to answer any questions and clarify any items for any of the members of the public or staff or members of the committee as well. Next slide, please. As shown on the context plan here, the property is outlined in red. It's located at the intersection of Queen Street and Chinguacousy. The site's currently occupied by a building which has been listed on the City of Brampton's Cultural Heritage Resource. To the north of the property is Terremoto Park, which includes a cricket field, baseball diamonds, playground facilities, and some seating areas. To the south of the property are two commercial plazas, which include various commercial uses. To name a few, would be a grocery store, takeout restaurants, financial institutions, etc. A Zoom bus rapid transit stop is also located adjacent to the property along Queen Street. The Queen Street corridor east of Chinguacousy Road also represents an intensification corridor. The subject lands will serve as a gateway to the corridor and to the broader community. In recognizing the property's proximity to the recreation facilities, shopping centers, bus rapid transit network, and the intensification corridor, we think that the site provides an opportunity for some intensification. It's an ideal location, and it makes use of the abundant amenities in the immediate area, which are all within walking distance and would help contribute to the achievement of complete communities. Next slide, please. In light of the surrounding context, our client is proposing to redevelop the property for a 15-story condominium apartment building with underground parking. Access to the site is being proposed off Queen Street West. As shown on this plan, there's high-quality landscaping being proposed in order to position the development as a prominent gateway feature at the intersection. So at the south of the property, there is a pickup / drop-off location, which has been provided, and it includes interlocking paver stones, all which centrals around the central garden area. North of the site, there is a kids' play area, and then I guess to the southeast of the site, there's also another amenity area which residents can sit out and eat lunch. There's also multiple access points provided to the site, which connect to the existing municipal sidewalks and greater transit system. Next slide, please. So this slide shows a rendering and the elevation plan of the proposed development. As shown, the building proposes considerable amounts of glazing, balconies, and a variation of facades, all which create high quality building design. So this image also helps demonstrate how the proposal will create a focal point at the intersection and help transition this site toward the intensification corridor to the east. Next slide, please. This image shows cross sections of the proposal and how the site will meet the angular plane criteria. So the angular plane criteria represents a urban design industry standard which evaluates building massing in the context of the surrounding land uses. So the angular planes are intended to mitigate the shadow and view impacts that a development will have on the surrounding uses around it. As you can see in these images, both the angular plane on Queen Street West and Chinguacousy Road are both maintained, so it'll help in preserving the amount of sunlight that these right-of-ways will receive. Next slide, please. So additionally, there was also a shadow study prepared as part of the submission package. In line with the city's shadow study requirements, a number of important dates and times were analyzed. So you can see on this slide here, it's June 21st, 9:30 a.m. in the morning, which represents the longest day of the year. Next slide, please. And you can see this is June 21st, same day, 12 p.m. The shadow's slightly moving towards the right-of-way there. Next slide, please. Another slide, 3:30, June 21st still, shadow study, or shadowing from the proposal is on the right-of-way again. Next slide, please. And then finally, June 21st at 6:30, the shadow of the proposal is sort of on the right-of-way and portions of the commercial uses to the south. Next slide, please. So on this one is also March and September 21st shadow impacts. So you can see on this slide, it's 9:30 in the morning, and there is some shadow impacts to the park to the north. Next slide, please. And this one again showing 12:30, it's sort of shadow impacting the right-of-way along Chinguacousy. Next slide, please. And then 330, you can see that there's slight shadow impact to the residential rear neighbors, rear yards of the residential parcels to the east. Next slide, please. And then again, 630, you can see it shadow impacts some of the right-of-way and the commercial to the south. So I think it's important to note that there is some impact to the park to the north and the residential lots to the east, but it's also important to note that the shadows do move relatively quickly through the sky, and that it only impacts on certain days and times during the year. A majority of the shadow impact that is being proposed is within the very wide right-of-ways adjacent to the property and the commercial sort of plazas to the south. Next slide, please. So as Himanshu mentioned in his presentation, there's also a heritage building located on the property, and it is being proposed to be retained as part of the development. So the building has actually been relocated to the east of the site towards the intersection, so it will serve as more of a focal point for the intersection itself and provide a bit of prominence to the cultural heritage. So as part of the proposal, retaining this building itself will actually help preserve the cultural heritage of the area, and it'll also, I guess the development also adds to the city's housing stock and also contributes to the achievement of complete communities. So that's all I have. Thanks again for giving me the time to give you some highlights of the proposal. If you guys have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As the city clerk already communicated that we don't have any further delegations. I do have questions from committee members. First one goes to Councillor Vicente.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for the presentations. Just a quick question. I'm not sure if I missed it. Do we know if any percentage of this will be built for affordable units or affordable pricing?
Through you, Mr. Chair. At this time, the proposal does not contemplate any affordable units in the application.
Okay. Through you, Chair, to staff, do we have currently any requirements that we place on developments like this for a certain number of the units to be affordably priced or to be affordable units?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, this is Alan Parsons. Just wanted to respond to Councillor Vicente's question. At this point in time, Councillor Vicente, we don't have policies ingrained within our official plan with respect to requirements to add affordable units within projects such as this. We are working with our policy team, staff at this point in time towards preparation of those really requirements and the robust policies to that effect, but at this point in time, no.
Okay. I guess, again, in the form of a question, is there work that the city can do to, with the developer to obtain or to plan for a certain number of the units to be affordable?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, yeah, staff will take this information under advisement, and really on all projects going forward, it is our intent to work with applicants really on high density projects to understand how we can bring about the very important, obviously, affordable units to the residents of the city.
Okay, thank you. Because I note that being on the Queen Street, this is a location that will be served by transit, and so I would imagine a good number of people would want to avail themselves of transit and to live affordably as well. My next question, I guess, and next series of questions, depending on some of the responses, will have to do with the heritage building that's there. Now, I notice in looking at the way the site is laid out today and what is being proposed, I've noticed that the developer is proposing to move the school building from, it looks like maybe just 50, 60 feet. Can we get some comments on that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. So the Building is currently located at the western edge of the property boundary. The plan at this time proposed by the applicant is to move this building off-site, just at the park, and move it to the proposed location along this corner. Now, this is currently being reviewed by the heritage staff, this application will be subject to a heritage permit application as well. So this will be determined while the staff reviews this application.
Okay, thank you. This type of move, it's not a very significant one. Does staff have any comments on whether or not the building can survive a short move like this? It's a short move, so.
Through the chair, I do not have any information at this time, since we are still waiting for comments. I will be able to provide this information at a later date.
Okay, and this relocation, is this set in stone, or are other options possible, perhaps better options? The reason why I ask this question is because, you know, Queen Street is a very busy corridor, and lots of vehicle traffic, of course. And this building currently sits somewhat well set back from the road. But over time, I think we've seen in other buildings that are exposed to vehicle traffic, et cetera, they tend to not fare well over time. And I'm just wondering if there is a way that staff can work with the proponent here to find alternative locations if the building is going to be moved that will preserve the building better over time. And also, I'll leave it at that. So is that possible for those conversations to take place?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. So this application recently went to the Urban Design Review Panel, where a number of aspects of the proposal were discussed. And heritage was one of the issues that was brought up. And staff is now compiling the comments and reviewing the issues. So certainly this is something that will be discussed with the applicant.
Okay, and thank you. And through you, Chair, one last question. If we're going to entertain this, can we see a way for the building to have uses that would benefit the community? A building like this, I know Councillor Santos and I, we toured this school when it was still a school about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and I'm familiar with the interior of that block, that built that portion of the building, and I know it's quite it's generously sized and would make an excellent amenity for the community to use. Not just, I'm sure if it's part of the building, it would benefit the residents of the building itself, but perhaps it could be made available for meeting space through the community, perhaps working with the city or the organizations. Just as a suggestion, I'd like to put that out there for everyone to consider, if that's possible.
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor Vicente. Yes, certainly this is something that we can discuss with the applicant.
Okay, thank you. And Chair, I hope I kept everything to questions, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Vicente. Councillor Santos.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. And Councillor Vicente was being a lot more subtle than my questions will be. Through you, Mr. Chair, to staff and or the person who presented on the application itself, is there opportunity to potentially move the heritage school perhaps onto the park itself, which is right next door, and consider having that as a space for the community? Is that a possibility for folks to consider? And if that is the case, would that also not possibly open up the door to more space for the developer themselves?
Through Mr. Chairman, through to Councillor Santos. Councillor, Yeah, that sound like great ideas. Staff are very keen to look at opportunities there where with our community services staff to understand really needs, understand also through our heritage planning staff, their thoughts on the matter as well. And we would appreciate really having some further dialogue with yourselves about thoughts to that effect as well. So as staff will look into those really alternatives that are available to us and an approach of that sort to see if it is seen as really being one of the best ways to preserve the heritage structure here. So we'll look into those matters and we'll be reporting back.
That would be awesome, Alan. And again, through you, Mr. Chair, because having that heritage home, if amenable to the developer, moved a little bit further onto Terremoto Park, which is really a park that it has a lot of space, and then have it dedicated to the community would be fantastic, I think. A few more questions. I noticed that in the renderings that there are a lot of trees. We like trees in Brampton. That's a good thing. Wondering if we can hear a little bit more about the possibilities around the sustainable and environmental development features that may be incorporated into this. So whether that's green roofs, more trees, living walls, energy efficiency, those are the types of developments that we are really trying to support, especially high density developments like this one. And certainly if we are moving the heritage home building somewhere else and we're open to then create more space for more units, then we want to see some of those environmental features incorporated. What are the possibilities of that?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, in response to that, staff are always looking to grow the amount of score that's available and really can be achieved with any development project as it relates to our sustainability metrics in particular. We'll be working with the applicant through the rezoning process here, and if approved through rezoning, also through our site plan approval process where sustainability metrics are applied and all that documentation is required by them as well. Perhaps though, as it relates to the proposal as it exists at this point in time, the applicants might be able to provide some details with respect to their intent.
Through the chair, yeah. Thanks for the comments and the questions. So that with regards to the relocation of the heritage building offsite onto the adjacent park, it isn't something that we had entirely discussed or contemplated up until this point, but that's something that I think would definitely be beneficial for us because it is a fairly tight site as it is, and I know the city wants to see that heritage building retained, so that's definitely something that would be able to provide us with more opportunities in terms of what we can do on the site. And then in terms of sustainability and looking into further options, yeah, we would be open to discussing the possibility of green roofs or enhanced other low impact design features as part of the development. Absolutely.
Yeah, and thank you through you, Mr. Chair, because I think the energy efficiency side of things is super important. There's a big opportunity here on this particular site, especially if we want to push for a little bit more density. At the end of the day, that impacts the affordability of the unit when you're able to lower energy costs for the actual owners or tenants of the unit itself. So that's an important piece that certainly Councillor Vicente and I would support. My other question is in terms of walkability. Can staff just share in terms of our concept of 15, 20-minute walkable neighborhoods, what is around? I know what's around there, but just for the public's sake and for the record, what is around there for residents of this particular unit to access?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, perhaps I can ask Himanshu Katyal to just really identify with the context of the area and the walkability and the amenities contained within the area.
Through the chair, yes. So the site is located close to many amenities. So the Terremoto Park is there, which generally provides community facilities, and park uses. There are the existing commercial uses just across from the street at the south side of Queen Street, as well as at the south east corner of Queen and Chincoosee. So there is an existing Zoom bus stop at the site. So just at the intersection of Queen Street and Chincoosee, which is planned to be part of the region's extension for transit. And I can also report in the future a recommendation report further information on this.
That's great. Thank you very much. And my final note/question is, of course, advocating for bicycle parking and electric vehicle charging stations within parking. Let's not forget those as part of the sustainability and environmental building things that we are pushing for in these applications. Thank you very much. This is exciting.
Thank you, Councillor Santos. So I don't see any further questions by members of committee. So I do have a motion moved by Councillor Vicente that the report titled Information Report Application to Amend the Official Plan and Zoning Bylaw, Glenchnar and Associated Incorporated, 121488048, Canada Incorporated, number of developments included, Incorporated, 1030 Queen Street West, to the Planning Development Committee meeting of March 8th, 2021 be received, that the Planning Development Services be directed to report back to the Planning Development Committee with the results of the public meeting and the staff recommendations subsequent to the completion and circulation of the application, comprehensive evaluation of the proposal, and that the delegation's correspondence be received and noted on the screen. Is there anyone opposed to this motion? Otherwise, your vote will count in the affirmative. No? Okay, so the motion carries. The statutory public meeting item is now adjourned. Our next one, our last one for the night, is 5.3, staff report regarding application to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw. Glenchnar and Associates, IMJ Keystone Holdings Incorporated, and I will hand it over to Himanshu again. Welcome back.
Hi again, Mr. Chair, members of the committee and the public. My name is Himanshu and I'm the planner assigned to process and review this application to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw. Please note that the committee will not make a decision today. The purpose of this meeting is to provide information to the public and seek feedback. Next slide. The subject lands are located at 2247, 2257, and 2271 Mayfield Road. These are 3 parcels that will be joined. These are located west of McLaughlin Road. The lands are currently occupied by 3 single detached dwellings that exist on each parcel of record. Next slide. Surrounding land uses include lands that are part of the natural heritage system to the south of this application. To the north is Mayfield Road, beyond which is the town of Caledon. To the east are lands that are part of the NHS and future low-density residential uses. And to the west is a watercourse tributary of the Fletcher's Creek, beyond which are existing low-density residential uses. Next slide. So the application proposes an official plan and zoning bylaw amendment to permit an 8-story retirement residence building with 200 units. The proposed ground floor will have dining and amenity spaces for the residents, comprised of a dining hall and a bistro, a fitness and beauty center, health center, etc. And there will be outdoor amenity space at the rear of the building. The proposed floors 2 and 3 will be dedicated to memory care and assisted living residential units. These floors will include their separate dining services for individuals who require medical care and assistance. The proposed floors 4 to 8 will be for independent living, which will be comprised of studio, 1-bedroom, and 2-bedroom units. There will be proposed 106 parking spaces, both at ground and underground. The proposed write-in and write-out access from Mayfield Road will be provided, and a full moves access from the proposed Callahan Court will be provided. Next slide. The subject lands are designated residential and open space on Schedule A of the official plan. The residential designation permits a broad range of residential uses that range from single detached dwellings to apartments. The open space designation is comprised of valley lands and water course corridors, woodlands, wetlands, and environmental buffers. An amendment to the residential designation of the official plan is required to permit this development. There will be no change to the open space designation. Next slide. The Mount Pleasant Secondary Plan designates the property as low or medium density residential designation and natural heritage system. The low medium density residential designation permits single detached, semi-detached, and townhouse uses, as well as places of worship, schools, parks, and stormwater management facilities. And the NHS designation policies aim to protect the sensitive environmental lands from development and primarily keep the land in a natural state. Similar to the official plan amendment, only the low medium density residential designation will be required to be amended to permit this development. There will be no change to the NHS designation. Similarly, the Mount Pleasant Block Plan designates the property as low medium density residential, NHS channels, and NHS woodlands. And an amendment to the low medium density residential designation will be required to permit this development. Next slide. The subject lands are currently zoned agricultural, which permit agricultural uses, single detached dwelling, a group home, cemetery, an animal hospital, etc. An amendment to the zoning bylaw will be required to permit this application. Next slide. So the official plan amendment submitted with the application proposes to redesignate the lands from the low medium density residential to a site specific high density residential designation, both in the secondary plan and the block plan. And again, there will be no change to the NHS designation. Next slide. The zoning bylaw amendment submitted with the application proposes to rezone the property to a residential apartment zone with site-specific provisions with respect to setbacks, density, and lot coverage. Next slide. At this time, staff has noted these issues that will need to be addressed. Confirmation is required that the proposed development demonstrates that it contributes towards an age-friendly community and that it addresses the seniors housing site selection criteria of the city's age-friendly strategy and action plan. Confirmation is required that the proposed access from Mayfield Road and future Callahan Court will adequately accommodate traffic to the site without causing adverse impacts to the planned residential neighborhood to the east. Whether the proposed development demonstrates that it meets the criteria outlined in the official plan to exceed the maximum height and density limits. The proposed development shall be located outside of the natural heritage system. Whether adequate amenity area will be provided for the future residents. And lastly, whether there will be any shadowing impacts to the surrounding uses or not. Next slide. Prior to finalizing the recommendations to council, this application will be further evaluated for consistency with the Planning Act, provincial policy statement, conformity with the growth plan, the Region of Peel official plan, City of Brampton official plan, and the design guidelines. Next slide. Staff will continue the review of the application, including reviewing the comments that we have received from the public. Staff will at a later date advance a final recommendation report to council for a decision. Issues that have been raised will be addressed in the recommendation report. Staff will contact and follow up with those residents who have provided comments through all channels. The report and the submitted materials associated with tonight's meeting are available online and the presentation will also be available online shortly. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact myself or the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you very much. City Clerk, do we have any delegations?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we have Vanessa DeVelter from Glenn Schnarr and Associates, and they have a presentation, as well as there's correspondence 11.3 on tonight's agenda.
Okay.
Vanessa, we're just going to bring up your presentation here momentarily.
Okay.
So please go ahead, Vanessa. You can address the committee. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Chair and committee members and members of the public. My name is Vanessa DeVelter, and I'm the planning consultant with Glenn Schnarr and Associates, acting on behalf of the landowner, IMJ Keystone Holdings Incorporated, for amendments to the City of Brampton official plan and zoning bylaw. Next slide, please. So, as Himanshu has identified, so the subject property is comprised of 3 low-density residential parcels of record, 2247, 2257, and 2271 Mayfield Road. I understand there's several written correspondence related to this agenda item, so I'll do my best to address several of those comments throughout my presentation. Next slide, please. The proposed 8-story building is envisioned for residential use for older adults with varying health and mobility concerns. The application contains 200 residential units for assisted living, independent living, and memory care. I understand there are concerns related to development in and around the NHS area. Our office, in consultation with our consultant team, met with the Credit Valley Conservation Authority last week to discuss some of their preliminary comments. So we've been able to work through some of their comments and look forward to comments from the City of Brampton related to that matter. Next slide, please. This is the main floor plan for the development. So it's comprised of the majority of communal amenities provided to residents of the building. So dining services, healthcare, arts and crafts, workshop, a place of worship, and a variety of others will provide on-site amenities for residents to engage with each other and prevent social isolation. Outdoor amenity space will be provided by way of private terraces and communal terraces, including a ground floor communal terrace located at the south of the building. Next slide, please. So this is our north, east, and west elevation for the building. So you'll notice on the west and east faces, there are no openings or windows. So this prevents any privacy or sightline issues for existing residents located to the west on Ringwood Road and any future residents to the east on Callahan Court. Loading and garbage collection is located on the western portion of the site, set into the building face to reduce visibility. Next slide, please. So the following 2 slides provide conceptual graphic renderings of the building. So the height of the building is broken down between both vertical and horizontal step backs and setbacks to sort of break down the massing and create more of a dynamic facade. Building materials such as brick masonry and precast concrete will provide a varied texture to the external portions of the building. A formal shadow impact study was conducted as part of this formal development application. The majority of the shadowing impacts are to the north of the building along Mayfield Road and to the south and southeast on portions of the NHS. That being said, the majority of the shadowing on the NHS occurs in the later afternoon and early evening, around 6 p.m. So submitted correspondence that had concerns around full shadowing on the NHS and any potential damage to plant life can be mitigated, knowing that the majority of sunlight is shown throughout the day and that the shadowing occurs around 5 or 6 p.m. Next slide, please. So this is another image of the graphic rendering, just demonstrating where the loading is there on the western portion of the site. Next slide, please. So the proposed development will contribute to the supply of housing for older adults and individuals requiring additional healthcare needs. The surrounding built form is predominantly low-density residential, so this will provide a different built form in a growing area of Northwest Brampton. The built form represents an appropriate size and compatibility consistent with potential seniors housing locations identified in the City of Brampton Seniors Housing Study. Furthermore, at the February 22nd PDC committee meeting, it was identified that one of the highest priorities for seniors was the request for affordable and accessible housing. That being said, our client has not decided the breakdown in terms of units, if how many will be affordable or if that's still a point of discussion, but we will continue to bring that up with our client. Next slide, please. So just to conclude, the application does conform to provincial and regional and municipal policies related to intensification in designated greenfield areas. The proposed built form will represent a higher density and contribute to development that can be appropriately integrated with the natural heritage system. Thank you very much, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. So I don't believe there's any delegation. So members of the committee, are there any questions? There are no questions, so I do have a motion moved by Councillor Palashi to approve the staff report recommendations and applicant delegation, that the report titled Information Report Application to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw, Glen Schnarr Associated, IMJ Keystone Holdings Incorporated, 2247, 2257, 2271 Mayfield Road, Ward 6, to the Planning Development Committee meeting of March 8th, 2021 be received, that Planning Development Services staff be directed to report back to the Planning Development Committee with the results of the public meeting and the staff recommendations subsequent to the completion of the circulation of the application and comprehensive evaluation of the proposal. That the delegation of correspondence be received. Is there anyone opposed to this motion? Okay, so there are no oppositions, so no objections, so the motion carries, and the statutory public meeting for this item is now adjourned. So now we go on to item 6.1, public delegations. City Clerk, are there any public delegations regarding item 6.1?
Mr. Chair, there are none.
Okay, so we will move on to the next item and deal with report item 7.1 in the agenda order. Are there any questions by members of the committee? Okay, no. So I do have a motion moved by Councillor Fortini that the report titled Site-Specific Amendment to Sign Bylaw 399-2002, 249-95111 Ontario Incorporated, 8177 Torbram Road, Ward 8, to the Planning Development Committee meeting of March 8, 2021 be received, and that a bylaw be passed to amend the signed bylaw 399-2002 as amended to permit the proposal site-specific amendment. Is there anyone opposed to this motion? Oh, Councillor Fortini, you want to speak?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
So just to staff, so I think there's, we're asking for a bylaw for only one sign. Is that what it is, not two signs on this?
Hello, Mr. Chair and the rest of council. Yes, the recommended approval is for only one sign.
Is it because they're oversized, or is it because they're lit of the light?
It's due to the oversized nature of the signs. It was recommended through urban design that only one sign was recommended for this site.
Yeah, you know, we look at these businesses, and it's on a regular road. Is having two signs on a corner, one on each side, does it make a difference on size if they shorten the size and have one on one side and one on the other? Or the bylaw says only one sign? They do not have any on the boulevard or on the grass, so they only have one on the building now.
Yes. So it was discussed with the client or the applicant prior to them installing the signs, how they could comply. They chose not to comply and go ahead and install the signs without permits.
Right. Okay, I see what you're saying. But if they had one on the boulevard, like on a pole, I said they're still allowed to have one on the building?
Yes, they are allowed a ground sign.
And a second one on the building.
Yes.
So they're allowed too.
They were allowed 2 upper story signs, just not to the scale that they had requested. It's a function of the area of the wall face, and they had exceeded that.
So yeah, they exceeded the size. Yeah, I read the report. Well, my question is, I think you're just saying yes, sir. If they actually had a sign on the boulevard, are they allowed to have a second sign on the building?
Yes.
Okay, so that was my question. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, members of committee, as previously read, but you can also see it on the board or on the screen. So I do have a motion moved by Councilor Fortini. Does anyone oppose? Okay, there are no objections, so this item is concluded. We go now to item 6.2, and I guess before we proceed, Councilor Fortini, did you want to speak to item 6.2?
Yes, this is the one for Petrol. Yes. Yeah, I know there's a lot of people, and I know they've received over 1,000 signatures. I've been on the site. I went to look at it. I just want to know if we could defer this to the next planning meeting, because if we look at the homes the way they are, they're facing south on the south side, and then they're also facing on the west side. If we actually put this 8-story building, it's going to kind of block completely all the homes there. And, you know, there's not much room. So maybe if we could work, do a more of a site visit and see what we could do and defer it to the next planning meeting. So I'm not saying no or yes, then at least give it one more planning meeting, see how we can work with things better, the residents.
Okay, thank you. Now, I do know, City Clerk, that this is not per normal practice, but just to avoid, I do see that there were 20 delegations and probably more, and there is a deferral on the floor. So as the chair, I would recommend that we take the deferral if allowed, unless there's members on the board who have any questions. If not, then again, as a reminder that we'd be speaking to the deferral. City Clerk, can you please advise?
Yeah. And Mr. Chair, not to interrupt, you know, there's over 1,000 signatures here. So to ask everyone to wait for the next planning meeting, you know, it's more because of the signatures and all the delegations. And I'm hoping to try to get maybe 2 or 3 delegations to come to delegate. I started having 20 delegations, all saying kind of the same thing. And I did do a site visit there on Saturday, and I seen it. So I kind of agreeing with the residents here, you know, on this building here that's coming up.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Fortini. City Clerk, can you please advise?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So normally the practice is if a member starts to speak and then they speak for or against the item and then they move a deferral, that's not fair to the other members, because after a deferral is moved, there is no opportunity for debate. It goes immediately to a vote. So I just wish to clarify if you are accepting a deferral motion, because if deferral has been moved, there is no debate and we proceed immediately to a vote. And I do see Councillor Dillon on the board and Councillor Williams.
Yeah, thank you. Councilor Fortini, if you're okay, I would ask you to hold your deferral since you already spoke. Allow the other members to speak, and then after you can put your deferral on the floor if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Dillon.
I think perhaps Councillor Medeiros, I think I didn't know Councillor Williams was on the board, so I'll let the local councillor speak first, if that's okay with you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Williams.
Yes, thank you through the chair. I think I'm actually asking for more clarification. We have 20 delegations that want to speak to this item. Don't we usually listen to the delegations, the residents first, and then discuss what we're going to do with this item? I'm just confused.
Yes, Councillor Williams, per normal practice, you are correct, but in the Councillor Fortini had requested that a deferral to avoid, I guess, to a certain degree, have people spend all this time tonight, and I guess his attempt is to work with the organization or yourself as the area councillor to maybe have 2 or 3 representatives. So that's why we've gone to this sort of extraordinary practice. But again, I'm at your will, and if you want to provide some other comments or direction, but that's what I think the intent is.
Well, I guess I don't want to break procedure, and so I would look to the clerk for a lot of direction on this, but I do feel for the residents. Many of them have probably prepared notes, some plans. They want to be able to have their opinions on this heard. So I look to the clerk for some guidance on that, but I do feel that the residents probably would want to have their opportunity to speak. But it's the will of council. I would love to hear from them, but if a deferral motion is properly based, then I guess we have to move on that. But I look to you guys for that guidance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Fortini.
Yeah, thank you. And, it wasn't about, the residents. And I did do a site visit. I did meet some residents there on Saturday. And I was hoping that, council actually goes out there, like yourself, Councillor Charmaine, and looks at the site. And maybe it's easier to judge if this 8-story building is suitable. Because if I'm looking at the homes and where the sun rises on, they don't get sun now. And it's very unfair for these residents to live there. And they're going to look outside their window. They're going to see an 8-story building. So I was hoping maybe to give it another 2 weeks and we can all go out there and look, because there's not much room for this building to be put. And I'm going to agree with the residents, and I supported them before. And so given an extra 2 weeks is not going to hurt, then maybe we could come with a better conclusion, and maybe we could all not support it. That's where I'm standing. So that's why I like to defer it and get a better site visit ourselves.
Okay, so I don't see a deferral. I do see now Councillor Palashi. I will allow Councillor Palashi to speak, but then after, as I see that there seems to be debate about what was the intention, then we might just go to delegations. Councillor Palashi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Gurpreet wants to speak before he gave way to Charmaine. I'm good if if Gurpreet wants to speak, and then I can go after Councillor Dillon.
Thank you, Councillor Palashi. Councillor Dillon.
So I yield.
Okay, Councillor Palashi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a little bit unheard of. Now we do live in different times today with COVID, and we didn't have 20 delegations leave their home and come to City Hall. Nevertheless, the delegations are online, I'm assuming, and have prepared their thoughts to speak to us here today. I would support a deferral, but I won't support a deferral without hearing the residents. The residents have taken their time to send in their delegation request forms. If they are not heard today, they will then have to send in delegation request forms for the next meeting. And I'm not sure about the deferral. I think I heard that there was a deferral with information, which with a request, and I don't know if that request is that Councillor Fortini is asking council to go out and look at the site. I've been there. I know exactly everything about this area. But then Councillor Fortini is now saying that he's going to ask the delegations not to delegate. I'm not comfortable with this. I think that it's better if we listen to the residents. They've taken the time to come through this meeting that started an hour and 15 minutes ago to speak tonight, and I would rather hear them. So at this time, I'm not going to support a deferral. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Palashi. Councillor Fortini for the last time.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. This is going back and forth. So when I was out there doing a site, and the reason I'm asking for deferral is because I was out there Saturday with some residents, and some of these homes were supposed to be a parquet, and they were supposed to have a plaza, not a building. So I'm hoping to get these residents and the developer back together and say, guys, maybe we can bring it down, because if you actually do a site visit, I will not support this building. I never did. So, deferring it for another 2 weeks, hoping maybe they could come to a conclusion between the resident and the developer would help. There's over 1,000 signatures on this. And, I'm supporting the residents, But if they want to delegate and everyone's going to say, that's fine with me too. But I was hoping to shorten it and hoping they could come to a conclusion in 2 weeks. But Mr. Chair, let everyone delegate.
Yeah,
And I'll
thank
speak
you.
right after the delegation. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we will start with the delegation. So City Clerk, I'll hand it over to you to administer the delegations, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of committee. There are 20 delegates that have registered for this evening's meeting. Most are in attendance tonight. I will take them in groups of 5. The first that I'll be calling is Tony Marachi, and along with Tony is delegate number 11, Nicholas Marachi, who is Tony's son, and I believe with the indulgence of committee, he's asking that his son be able to speak after him. After that will be Azad Goat, followed by Rupinder and Jasbir Karbanda. They have a pre-recorded audio delegation that will be played, followed by Cynthia Sri Pragash, who has a presentation, followed by Gatish Bhatt, and after that I will proceed with the remaining delegations. So Tony, you can unmute your mic and you have up to 5 minutes to address the committee.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and all committee members. My name is Tony Marachi and I live at 38 Boulevard. I am here to oppose this rezoning application. Planning, Design and Development Department in early of 2003 had approved on July 15, 2003 the plan. In that report, they referenced roofscape, I quote, maintain compatibility with adjacent dwelling. Roofscape should be treated as an integrated design element. It was the final submission and approved and signed off by Michael Hoy at Planning. I invite everyone to read this report titled The Estates of Valley Creek Community. Nowhere within that report is this type of development acceptable. I purchased my home based on the information that was available together with the site plan and the official plan set out by the city of Brampton. I was led to believe that a low-rise retail community mall would be constructed on the entire 4.5 acre lot, as you see throughout the city. We have need for this type of mall, as so do many others in the community that have mobility issues and want to have access to supplies without the need to rely on transportation. People deserve to have the community shops. Petrol Plaza is one of these areas that were designated for this type of use. Any other plazas are too far and they require transportation. This area was part of the decision making when I purchased my home, and the plaza is a necessity for the community, especially for the aging community members. Life should not become harder after retirement. It should become easier. The plaza is to full capacity with limited variety of shops. Expanding the plaza will provide much more variety for the disadvantaged community members and for people to access. I want to touch on the self-serving report that was submitted to the city by the developers or the builders that the city relied on when they were making decisions. That is without proper supporting facts. If you look at section 4.3.5 of the official plan speaks to the local retail, they are located in residential areas servicing community needs in residential areas. If you look at section 4.3.5.4 of the official plan, it talks about the shops that service the surrounding residential areas. The Valley Creek Plaza has yet to meet the day-to-day needs of the surrounding neighborhoods due to its incomplete state. There is no proof that space would be more difficult to rent out. In fact, no evidence has been provided that would show that developers made any attempt to find tenants. The developer purchased this property with their eyes wide open, knowledge of what was expected by the community. Valley Creek Plaza does not have a comprehensive tenant mix. Ward 8 is in need of neighborhood retail and is in high demand for our community. There is insufficient retail, including supermarkets within walking distance. The proposed zoning change is neither consistent nor compatible regarding their design and use. The area neighborhood is considered a low density as a whole, and the site was part of the design. The reflections or the recommendations of the JCWG's report are simply a recommendation that does not reflect the views of the neighborhood. The neighborhood is somewhat established and waiting for the completion of the plaza as set out in the official plan. We need the service levels to be increased and in line with the official plan. It is our community's opinion that the plaza needs to be completed as per the official plan, as it will be part of fulfilling the site's function for the community members' access to local retail. As a community in need of more local retail, the community welcomes more retail and will make use of these local retail shops.
30 seconds, Tony.
The report from Tate Economic Research, Inc. states that the subject site is surrounded by low-density homes as per 1-1 subject site location illustration, 3-1 subject site existing tenant mixes lacking a variety, most noticeably is a grocery store of some sort. Section 3-1 photo on page 10. The photo depicts the elevation and roof style together with the height. This is consistent with the entire neighborhood. If I may point out, to the top left-hand side of that photo, it shows the homes located across the road east side of McBean. The plaza is consistent with the surrounding area homes in height, elevation, and roof. The proposal will not be consistent with the surrounding homes and not even with the existing Petrol Plaza. 3.2 Valley Creek Plaza service level cannot be relied upon as any form of analysis for customer draws, as we are in a pandemic that has changed everyone's behavior and does not take into account future traffic conditions and the easing of restrictions and a return to a more normalized life. Section 4.4, Petrol Boulevard is a roadway that has future use change as it is connected to the west at West Humber and the expansion of four-way and the connection to the 427. This will not be a collector road, but it will be an arterial roadway in the near future, similar to Williams Parkway. The report indicates that this site does not have a strong location and access characteristics, which are necessary to support the viability of a large-scale neighborhood retail center. How could this be? Did the city make an error on the official plan? I think not. I can say there is no factual supporting evidence. If a 7-story building and housing can be accommodated on this site, how can the retail space not be? This is me misleading, and it's self-serving.
Sorry, we've gone way beyond the 5 minutes. And because of all the delegations, if you want to wrap it up right now, please.
Okay, pass it on to Nicholas. Nicholas would like to he would like to give his time for Tony to speak.
Sorry, City Clerk, can you advise?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So Tony Marachi, and I mentioned at the beginning, his son is delegate registered number 11, and he requested that he speak after Tony. And he may need, Tony may need to provide some assistance to Nicholas for his remarks.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Okay.
So Nicholas and Tony, you can proceed with your that's up to 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I can say there is no factual supporting information. If a 7-story building and housing can be accommodated on this site, how can the retail space not be? This is misleading and self-serving to the developers to say a retail area is not supported. The official plan took all the necessary factors into consideration when they prepared the plan in the early 2000s, and it was approved. If you look at section 5.2, the problem as I see with the retail function conclusion that it lacks accessibility, travel times by public transit, car, biking, and yes, walking. I also take the issues with notice radius given to the residents of Brampton as a whole. There are residents that are affected that did not get any notice other than reading a sign on the located site. This is not adequate. When you consider the neighborhood as a whole, the impact of this change will be felt far beyond the 240-meter notification zone and has disenfranchised so many members of this community to participate in this process. I look at the shadow report and I notice that this proposal will impact existing homes. And I say, even if one home is affected, that is one home too many. This type of proposal has no place in the neighborhood. The traffic impact study is flawed. It does not take into account the future expansions of the roadway. The developer has not demonstrated the need to rezone the property. The property, as set out in the official plan, is there to service the community. The property needs to conform in appearance to the surrounding neighborhood. The community envisioned a retail plaza. There is no reason to deviate from this vision. When buying a property, you research and make decisions based on that research. Neither the community nor the developer was led to believe anything different in connection with this site. In conclusion, I want to ask that the City of Brampton follows the official plan as set out and support the community in respect to that vision that was projected from the onset. There is no good reason to change the zoning. Our community desperately needs better local services, not a building that has no business being in this retail space. To deprive us of our right to expect the space to be developed in a manner that is consistent with the official plan is wrong, unfair, and does not serve our community. Thank you, and I am hopeful that everyone can see through the developer's scheme to turn a profit at the expense of our community. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Nicholas. The next delegate is Azad Goyat. Azad, you have 5 minutes to address the committee. Please go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. In the last meeting, in planning commission planning meeting, it was decided that the builder or developer will talk to the resident and will organize a town hall meeting. He has not done anything. And even he refused unofficially that he doesn't want to organize any meeting with the resident. That's not fair. There's a wastage of time for the planning committee and the resident itself. And this is very concerning. What has changed since the last meeting? And except the developer put another proposal with the city hall. And if any study done on this one during this time is irrelevant because it's a COVID time and studies are not reflecting the right thing. Brampton means business. So if we are changing the zoning from commercial to residential, how we can increase the ratio? Rather, we are decreasing the ratio. We have seen in the other presentation too that we are bringing the high-rise building at the cost of even the heritage building. That's not acceptable even. So the proposal is very disgusting, and residents who bought their houses that time, they assume that there is a commercial plaza here, and they will have more local jobs for the area residents. And residents already organized a meeting with the mayor, and we have the planning meeting last time too. And mayor has openly supported the resident too. Mayor Patrick Brown even released a open statement, official statement that he is against this development. So Brampton means business. So if we are doing this thing again and again, here or there, how we can improve this ratio? I'm just repeating that one again. Okay, why there is easy access to the developer to the city halls? They are bringing the project by changing one to the another, from 3-story to the 8-story. So they are coming so many changes. That should not be done, and that should not be acceptable. The developer must be told by the city that no, this is not the right path. You are changing your plan to plan, just harassing the residents of this beautiful community. Residents of this neighborhood are not cowards. Let us tell to the developer, we are not cowards, we are the fighter. We will fight for our rights. We can have the aggressive demonstration. We organized a demonstration during COVID, pre-COVID time, or when the COVID, there was no restriction. But if this developer is coming and city with a plan again, and he is allowed for this zoning change, the resident will have the demonstration, and even we are ready to have a hunger strike at City Hall. We won't let it change. There is no room for changing from commercial to residence in this neighborhood. There is a big no. I request the city council, please support the residents and defeat this motion by 11-0. There is a no place. Let me tell you, we elect you with the hope that you will represent us. If residents are to fight, they have been harassed, and our representatives are quiet and they are supporting the developer, it's not acceptable. Then we need change, and that will be done. The resident of this beautiful neighborhood can go to any limit. And I add one more thing. In Brampton and all over, there should be no place for changing the zoning from commercial to residential. We need jobs. We need business. Brampton needs business. City should make a plan that no developer has the courage to apply for the change of zoning from commercial to residential. And I would suggest to the city council, please, Brampton East has the safety concerns. We have no police station. I will recommend, please bring a police station. This is the perfect line too. If the commercial zoning is to be changed, it should be changed to have a police station at this site. So again, I'm requesting the city council, please support the resident and hear our voice and
thank you.
For us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your 5 minutes have, thank you. City Clerk, or next.
Mr. Chair, the next delegation is a pre-recorded delegation from Rupinder and Jasbir Karbanda, and I'll bring that up momentarily.
Hi, this is Rupinder Karbanda speaking from 79 Maple Valley Street. Very well citizen of Canada, Ontario, Brampton. Already dense with high accident area in this area. Between Cottrell and McQueen, and Cottrell Maple Valley. Just this distance, less than a kilometer or half a kilometer to the school, you will find there are maximum number of accidents. Everything is overwhelming. School has got portables, be it primary, elementary, or otherwise. Schools have got portables, and the density is too high of the residents. The residents is here, they don't have proper support of necessity items. Safety, security, health, and everything. There's nothing to count one on one. Property tax is the highest. Insurance is the highest. We do not support this plan of from the Maple Valley community. It's making chaos in this place. City has spent so much time planning green zone, commercial zone, and switching this in matter of ways just to take benefit out of the community, while out of the regional or another thing. But consuming out of the short of benefit, short of necessity, we are short of all those, falling short of, and it's a disorganized, it is going to be disorganized. It's leading to chaos, negative impact on health, safety, security, education, overall harming the total psychology of the people living here and the existing payers of tax payers and their benefits and necessities, just withdrawing from them what they are short of already. It's too much. It's too much. I don't have to discuss much. I just plead, please live and let live gracefully rather than rush for meager dollars or numbers or quantities for your benefits. Look at what is existing. City should be helping the people who are living govern it properly rather than pushing it towards. So I really do not support residency zone for this commercial zone. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, the next delegation is Cynthia Sri Pragash. And Cynthia, we're just going to bring your presentation up in a moment. And you can start once the presentation is on the screen. So please go ahead, Cynthia. You have 5 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us. Next slide, please. So this is just a rundown by what's been happening in the past. So back in 2000, this was originally planned as a park, as you see here. Next slide, please. So the builder actually proposed proposal 1 back in 2018, as we see here, as 3-story, and then moved to, at the time of 3-story, we gave over 250 petitions. And also we went to City Hall with more than 100 families, waited in the main hall, and they actually took in 10 to 15 families. And then after that, we had a second virtual meeting. And after that second virtual meeting, we actually gave over 1,200 petitions signed. Next slide, please. And the planner then went into proposal number 2. Went from 3-story to 7-story apartment building with 72 residential units, 2 townhomes block with 12 total townhouse units, and 1 commercial unit, and existing building. Next slide, please. So looks like as per the official plan that was sent to us recently, I would like to get clarification on what is happening. Is this a new application or a new proposal? Please explain. It also says that to permit multiple residence buildings and an office development. So we would like to get a clarification on what is this office development is. Is this proposal number 3? The builder is not available to speak to the residents as he was promised back then. And also, even media is trying to get hold of the builder, and absolutely no email, no phone number. As a residents, we have the right to speak to the builder, and we want to sit down and talk to him. And he promised that he will sit down and talk to us, but that was never done. So do you have anyone that could explain this office development? Council?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Alan Parsons here. If you like, Mr. Chairman, staff can provide some description of the office development that's proposed.
So is this proposal number 3?
Through the chair, it's Steve Ganish here. Thanks very much for the question. It's to clarify, it's not a third proposal. It's a revised proposal from the first one that you had indicated on one of your earlier slides. The office development is going to be used by the developer as an office site for the developer. So not a large scale office per se, but an office suitable for the developer and his immediate needs.
Okay, so going back, so it will be still 7-story residential, maybe a one unit will be an office development. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's correct. So it would be a 7-story residential as outlined in the staff report, and towards the rear of the property near the stacked townhouses would be units for office.
So is that considered an amendment?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Is that considered an amendment?
That is part of this second proposal here, yes.
Okay, so that's proposal number 3 then.
Well, this would be the revised proposal from the last public meeting that I think was held in July 6, 2020.
Okay, so to my question again, so that would be proposal number 3 instead of revised, because this is a big change from residential to office development.
So through the chair, the residential component on the site is still remaining. The office, as I indicated previously, would be used by the developer.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. So petition update. So right now we have almost 1,200 signatures that we gave to the city. And as a residents, we are here to stay. And our homes are our lifetime investments. And basically we want to stay here, and we are asking for single floor, commercial only. Next slide, please. So this is the rally and media that we had in the past prior to COVID. And over 200 residents showed up to the rally. Next slide, please. And this is the media coverage from Brampton Guardian. And also this is the mayor's statement, as you read here. Next slide, please. So the development of the 7-story structure affects the neighborhood in the following ways. Privacy of our nearby homes drops the value of our house, increase the security and safety issues around our neighborhood, cause more traffic congestion, already too many accidents on Petrol, as one of our residents mentioned. And also we have 427 North will be having Landstaff exit opening up soon. Landstaff is connected to Petrol, which means all of us are going to be taking Landstaff exit rather than Highway 7 exit, which is not part of any of the studies that we have done so far, and also affects our school and parks. As we said, there are next slide, please. And families are stressed. City is under lockdown. I'm not sure why and how all these builders and planning is happening. Families are going through tough times due to COVID, whether it's financial hardship or even a loss of a family member. Again,
I would ask that you start wrapping up, please. We've gone beyond your 5 minutes, so I'll give you, if you can wrap it up in the next 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think I just have one more slide. Go ahead with the next. The builder is wasting our time and tax money, as we said. Next slide, please. And also, as a residents, we would like to know what happened to the signs. The signs were removed a couple of months back, and the signs are not there. So I would like to know why and what happened to the signs. Can someone answer that?
Does anyone on staff, does staff are aware of what happened to the signs?
Through the chair, it's Steve Ganish. I don't have any information as to what happened to the sign that was previously shown in the slideshow.
So we'll make sure we note of it, and we will provide a response accordingly if we can find out what would have happened to it.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, so thank you for your continued support. And again, we want the city to work for the residents and also consider us living here for long term. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. City Clerk?
The next delegation is from Gitish Bhatt. Gitish, you have 5 minutes. You can unmute your mic and address the committee.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I will start with the results of public meeting. It says that there was a special meeting of the Planning and Development Services Committee held virtually, and it says that there were no members of public in the attendance. Which meeting are we talking about? In the report, it says, very beginning of the report, after the names of the people. Anyone is aware of any meeting happened? Special meeting. I'm not talking about city meeting.
Thank you. I'll ask city staff aware of any meeting that was taking place?
Through the chair, Steve Ganish here. The only meetings that staff are aware of are those outlined in the report.
Okay, so that's not a special meeting. It's a city planning committee meeting, right? So there is the incorrect information listed in the meeting in this report.
Through the chair, perhaps it could help if the speaker could specify exactly which meeting. There was the original public meeting that was held in July 11th, 2018, as per the Planning Act. And then there was a second virtual meeting held in July of 2020. Is there an additional meeting that the delegate is referring to?
Yes, it's a special meeting of the Planning and Development Services. Is this meeting counted as a special meeting, or this is a regular meeting?
Through the chair, this is, and perhaps I'll defer to the city clerk, but this is our typical planning and development committee meeting whereby staff would bring forward recommendation reports.
I need to interfere. I'm Pushap Jindal, the owner of the property. I and my planner, then planner GWD, we did meet with all the residents at the community center in Brampton.
Can I ask who's speaking? Because there's only one person that's supposed to be speaking, and that's the delegate at this time. Was this another person?
I'm sorry to interfere, but this is the wrong information here. My name is Pushap Jindal. I'm the owner of the property.
Sorry, Pushap. If you wish to address the committee, I know you're the applicant. Please send me a text. Okay. You can't just interfere in the committee when they're hearing delegations. Thank you.
Okay, let's put this in official report in the meeting to clarify this. The second thing in the report I want to say, it says in the
Point of order.
Hello? Yes. Okay, so.
Sorry, excuse me. Who requested the point of order?
It's Councillor Pleshy.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not sure who's speaking. Is it still the owner of the property?
No, it's believe Mr. Bhatt, who's the delegation.
The delegation. Okay, my apologies.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, no problem. So go ahead with the delegation, please.
Okay, so it says that design / dwelling type compatibility. It says staff finds that it is appropriate to aim to provide a housing type that is largely underrepresented within the city of Brampton in order to try to satisfy significant demand of affordable home ownership. This is not clear that we are making an affordable homes here or it's a regular homes. So this is also not clear. So that has to be clarified. Then the next one is, it says green space, lack of green space. It says not intended to facilitate the provision of green space. Yes, we understand that it's not intended to facilitate the provision of green space, but at the same time, it will, when there is a high rise, it will have a significant impact on the environment. The next one is crowding of existing plaza. It says it is also anticipated that residents of the new development would travel on foot to the plaza rather than by vehicle, thereby reducing the draw on parking. So it is unclear that existing residents within surrounding area are going to move over there, because this will be new people coming and there will be new additional vehicular and a pedestrian traffic. This will be in addition to existing traffic. So these are the things that it says in the report that has to be clarified. Now I will start with the other things. So it is not clear that why city is rushing this project on approval. It is not clear what is behind this, that city has to rush to move this project as is. The second thing is, in last meeting, it was discussed that the new traffic study survey will be conducted. It is unclear that the traffic survey was conducted or not. If a traffic survey was conducted within last 6 months, it should be noted that during the COVID, specifically talking to my home, only 10% of the traffic is going out. So out of 10, like 2 people working 5 days a week, only 1 person is going out for 1 day in a week. That means only 10% traffic from my property. So I assume maximum of 20% traffic on the road. So if any traffic survey done during this period is absolutely not valid. We do not assume that COVID is going to last forever. So once the COVID is over, the traffic will increase and it will be more for the area. The third is there is no high rise in 1 kilometer of surrounding area. This high rise will not fit to the existing surrounding area. Then last time also it was mentioned, which is not in the report, is the auto insurance rate represents the area, what are the accidents in the area. L6P area is the highest auto insurance premium within GTA and one of the highest insurance premium within Canada. So that means the accidents are higher, and having more dense population will create more accidents. Dutch City has looked into this. This was actually mentioned in the last meeting and it is not in the report. Also, there was supposed to be a meeting with the residents from the builder. That was committed during last meeting. In the report, it is not there. Neither city has mentioned, nor builder has taken any initiative. We are not sure that why it is not included in the report. Also, how many stores are closed in the shopping complex currently over there? That will tell you that builder needs to create residential area, because as far as I know, none of the stores are closed. That means the area has need for the shopping space, not the residential area. And that concludes my presentation. Also, if I can share a picture, I would like to share. Hello?
Thank you, Mr. Bhatt. Is that the end of your delegation? Because you've exceeded the 5 minutes.
Yes, it will be end of my delegation. But can I share a picture? Is it possible? Like right now, I haven't sent it, but 2 days back, I took a picture and I want to share it.
Through you, Mr. Chair, my advice is we cannot control when others have control over displaying. So unless that information has been provided to the clerk's office ahead of time, we cannot project that information.
Okay, no problem. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
The next delegation is from Nisha Sandhu, and it is a pre-recorded audio delegation, so I'm just going to bring it up momentarily.
Hello everyone, this is Nisha Sandhu from 77 Maple Valley Street, Brampton. I, on behalf of my neighborhood, would like to voice that we are totally in disagreement of this proposed plan, which is at the intersection of McQueen and Cottrell. So this amended 2020 plan is, I think, even worse than the 2018 plan that was proposed, which was for 3-story, along with the commercial and townhouses. And we were in disagreement of that plan. I think that the builder has clearly misunderstood our voice, and we did not want any residential apartments coming in this area. We strongly wanted our commercial units in this area, and we wanted this plan of the 2018 amended plan to be changed to the original plan that was of the commercial units that were supposed to be built when we bought our homes. So this plan suggested 3-story buildings, and now the builder is going further and extending it to 7-story building apartment. So we are totally in disagreement of this. So I don't know if we were in disagreement of the 3 stories at that time. I don't know how the builder thought that we would be agreeing upon the 7-story condominium apartments with the townhomes and the commercial units. So the 7-story apartment will add to the chaos by increasing the traffic in this already crowded area. In this way, we will never come to any equal term or on a same platform, and there is always going to be some issue left out which will cause disagreement. So I think that this plan should not be approved, as this part of Brampton, the east part of Brampton, is already overcrowded, and it's becoming highly accidental prone. It was already a traffic packed area back. I can say that by I have a personal experience where my child, my elder son, 12 years at that time, in the year 2017, to be exact, March 23rd, 2017, he met with an accident on the intersection of Maple Valley and Cottrell. He was walking to school and a car hit him. He had a broken femur bone, and it's traumatizing to see your child on the roadside. I don't want any family to suffer in that way, where a member of their family is a victim of any accident. So I think that this plan should not be approved. Because all the facilities will be compromised, will be highly compromised if this plan is approved. Be it our parks, our schools, transit, traffic, the prices of our homes, the appeal of the neighborhood, everything is going to be compromised. So I recommend that if building homes instead of the commercial units is only thing which is on the builder's mind, then I would recommend that the builder go ahead and build detached homes or semi-detached homes. But I would definitely be a happier person if he can go ahead and make commercial units, which was the original plan. With due respect to all the jury, I request them to consider our plea and disapprove this plan. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, the next speaker is Amit Gupta. Amit, you are in the session. You can unmute your mic, and you have 5 minutes to address the committee.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at this meeting. So I live at 55 Maple Valley Street, which is just behind this particular plaza. So I'm not going to repeat the topics that most of my fellow residents are already talking about. I just want to specify on 2 or 3 things. So first is my son used to go to the Redevelop school, and his bus stop was right at Cottrell and Maple Valley Street. So I know the commotion that happens in the morning and during the afternoon time. We have the Caldestone School also just across the road, and it is a really busy intersection. So I read the report that stated that there is no traffic concern, and I'm really puzzled. Like, how did the report mention about no concern on the traffic part? I don't know if the study is being conducted during the past year, and if it is, then I don't think it is a correct representation of this particular traffic issue. The second point I want to mention is in the report, it did mention that the builder is planning to make some changes and probably have the balconies facing inside. So I don't understand how this is going to resolve the privacy concern that all the residents around the street have mentioned. Even if the balconies are facing inside, this doesn't address the privacy concern at all. I do want to, I mean, I'm not going to repeat the same, the concerns that my fellow residents have already mentioned. I just want to point out that we have more than 1,000 people signing a petition, and many residents were on the street. I'm not sure, I mean, why do we have this meeting? I mean, we are all wasting our time in this meeting. Neighbor was not able to attend this meeting because he was busy with something, because he was busy with his work. And this representation of like 20 delegates should not be considered as like we just had 20 people and that's it. I mean, we have a large population of residents here who are against this particular development. And I mean, we will stand for our rights. That is all that I have to say for now.
Thank you for your delegation. The next scheduled delegation is Aman Bhatia, and I do not see Aman in the session, so I do see somebody who's called in. I'm just going to unmute that person's mic who's called in by telephone, so they can please identify themselves if they're Aman Bhatia. The person who is on the telephone, can you please identify yourself? The person who's called in to tonight's meeting, can you please identify yourself? Okay, Mr. Chair, I'm going to suggest we move on to the next delegation, which is Isho Nano. Isho, you are in the session. You can unmute your mic and you have 5 minutes to address the committee. So Isho, I'm going to unmute your mic. Go ahead, Isho. Mr. Chair, there is a large echo coming from that computer. So Isho, I'm going to ask you to please turn off any other speakers and microphones. It's causing feedback. Mr. Chair, we're going to try one more time for Isho. So Mr. Chair, I'm going to move on to the next delegation because you will not be able to hear anything. Next we have Mark Nano. Mark, you are in the meeting. Oh, sorry, Mark, I'm going to unmute your mic and you can address the committee. Go ahead, Mark, you have 5 minutes. Go ahead, Mark. Mark Nano. Mark, it's your turn to address the committee.
Hello, can you hear me?
Is this Mark?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Mark, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Barely.
Okay, you have 5 minutes to address the committee. Please go ahead.
Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm opposed to this proposal. This area is designated for retail, and we need more amenities, not high-rises. We want a fair amount of privacy and no obstructions to light. We will ask that the project be denied, and if the builder wants to appeal, we will be there to continue our fight and put forth our views. Other than that, the area, the roadways are still not being used to capacity, And I don't think anybody's taken into consideration the future and the amount of traffic that will be on these roads come perhaps another 5 years. So we really don't need this complex being put as a high rise. And in fact, we need the retail stores, and there isn't much more I can say. I just hope that everybody has an opportunity to go and have a look at the site and make a real informed decision on this, so that the neighbors aren't put at a disadvantage here. And I hope that everybody sees it in a favorable way for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. The next delegation was Nicholas Morachi, who is delegated already. The next delegation is Gurbaj Singh, and I do not see a Gurbaj Singh on the attendee list. I don't know if, I'm just going to check one more time, Mr. Chair, with the telephone call-in user. The person who's called in on telephone, can you please identify yourself? Is this Gurbaj Singh or Aman Bhatia? So, Mr. Chair, I'm going to suggest we move on to the next delegation, which is Ravi Virk. Ravi, you are in the session. You can address the committee. You have 5 minutes. You can just unmute your mic, please.
Hello, respected Chair and members of Council. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak from residents' perspective. So to start with, we met sometime in 2020 and discussed about this project. In 2018 as well, around 100 families were at the City Hall to oppose this project. In 2018, we were met with surprise in 2020 when the building went up from 3-story to 7-story. And now again, between 2020 and 2021, there's another surprise, because in 2020, when this meeting happened, it was discussed due to COVID, people are not able to come to the City Hall, and the real representation of the people can be seen, assuming COVID will be over and we can set up a meeting somewhere in 2021. So things have not improved. Hard luck, the COVID is still there and we have to again meet online. But it was also discussed the builder gonna meet people and residents and address their concerns. So I had a word with my counselor some time back in the mid of 2020, around August, September. So I got the feedback, builder is not interested to meet the residents. So we see the arrogant attitude of the builder. So first he is going from 3-story to 7-story, and then from 7-story, he's not ready to meet the residents. So I don't know what is the purpose of these meetings. So last time also we discussed that this area is not a good area for a 7-story residential apartment. So it basically denies the peaceful right of living to the residents who are on the back of the property. Last time also we discussed, so somewhere where there is a Queen and McQueen, these areas where there are no immediate neighbors around, the builder can easily go and serve the community by building affordable housing. And another thing I can give a feedback, there are new places coming up like Grimsby, Beamsville, there are no neighbors at all, and the GO stations are well planned. You can very well purchase a property over there, put a rezoning, wait, and then go ahead with the condo plan. No resident is objecting to that. So I will summarize by saying we residents, around 1,200 of us have already signed on this petition not to go forward. And we are really looking forward for all of our elected councils who we elected and gave our vote to support us in this petition. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next delegation is Kenilwath Baxi. Kenilwath, you have 5 minutes to address the committee. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me to this meeting. My speech will be very short because already everybody has spoken to almost all the covered point. So first of all, I'm opposing this high rise, and I'm recommending the commercial, which everybody wants. So why I want to recommend commercial, that I'm living in this area since 8 years. When I purchased the house, I like this area because I don't see any large buildings except commercial, right? Since on all the side of area, like you go left, right, center, and only the schools are there. So it's very nice, peaceful neighborhood, which has 3 schools. And also why I like commercial, because I'm using all the facility already in the commercial. Like I go to doctor, I go to eye specialist also there. So I'm going through more than 7 years. Doctor is also I'm using the pharmacy, I'm using the pizza. So I'm using all the facility. I used to use dry cleaning, it just closed. So if we have more facilities, people will use like me, because they don't want to drive like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, because driving is always risky and you don't want to drive, and it's better if nearby, like I draw like 30 seconds or 1 minute, I'm near the plaza or I can walk, right? So the commercial will serve this community, and also this community is full of people because there's no space left except this parcel of the land. If they make commercial, or this will help everybody. Also, I'm opposing because if they are building this 7-story building and it's next to the school, so it's very risky if some bad element stays in the building, and due to the school, very like just walking distance, like maybe 100 steps. So this will affect, and it can be danger to the school, right? And community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next delegation is Gurinder Karbanda, and Gurinder has submitted a audio delegation, which I will be playing momentarily.
Hi, this is Gurinder here from Maple Valley Street. Happy Candidate Day to all. I wish I could be a bearer of better messages, but unfortunately, this project makes no sense to me. I mean, there were concerns amongst the community about overcrowding of that intersection at the plaza and overcrowding of the schools and how we can make the public support better for the existing staff. And now you are, bringing out this huge more projects with a lot more people, and there's nothing going to happen to support those people. And on top of that, to make matters worse, it's a complete lack of privacy. Like now my backyard is going to just stare into a whole bunch of apartments, and I have no security for myself or my kids. And this is just not right. I don't understand it. This was a commercial unit, and now out of sudden it's not just a residential unit, but it's a residential crowded unit. This makes no sense for the neighborhood. Nothing was prepped enough for it. This feels like a last minute grab. So I hope you guys will consider and think of the long-term benefits instead of the short-term ones. Thank you.
The next speaker is, I see a Ravi Sharma who's registered, but I don't see a Ravi Sharma on the attendee list. And so, Mr. Chair, I will suggest we go on to the next delegation, which is Chadari Shahzad. And I will just make sure that that person is in. So Chadari, you can unmute your mic to address the committee. You have 5 minutes. Chadari, I see you in the session. You can unmute your mic to address the committee, please. Chadari, I'm just going to unmute your mic. Hi, Chadari. It's Peter Fay from the clerk's office. Is this Chadari Shahzad? Mr. Chair, I'm going to suggest we move on if the person hasn't answered. The next is Ajitha Pathmanathan. And Ajitha, you can address the committee. You have up to 5 minutes.
Hello, you can hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'm going against this proposal because exactly it's back of my backyard. The building's gonna come. So if when I open the bedroom window or the backyard windows, like I can see the 8-story building and they are looking at me. So I feel a safety issue. And I have a small kids. They play backyard, so I can't live alone, live in a building 8-story building. So I'm really against this proposal. So it's commercial building is okay, but 8-story building I'm against that. Thank you. Please support for our residential. That's what I want to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And the next delegate is Ravina Sangha. Ravina, you can unmute your mic and address the committee. You have up to 5 minutes.
Hi, everyone. I would like to voice my opinion regarding the above mentioned proposal that we're talking about on 1965 Cottrell. So I just want to say that I totally disagree on this and raise an objection on the 7-story that is being proposed by the builder. As we all know, during this already stressed phase the world is going through right now, it's like the builder is secretly trying to get his plan approved by the city. It's been more than 10 years our families living in this neighborhood and have been waiting to see the commercial plaza, which is going to be for the benefit of everyone in the community. And having a 7-story or multi-resident in place, in my opinion, would definitely create a bottleneck amongst the environmental services which are in place, such as parks, amenities, traffic, etc. And I think it will also compromise the value of houses in the area, and it is going to have a negative impact on the neighborhood. Thanks, that's it from my end.
Thank you. And the final speaker is Harshad Kumar Chaudhary. Harshad, you are in the session. You can unmute your mic and you have 5 minutes to address the committee.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, please go ahead. Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay. So I'm totally against with this, the residential's multi-stories building, because when I bought the house, like that times, it was like the commercials buildings and it's not the high rise. I live on the Maple Valley Street. That's why I bought the house. Once this 7-stories building is going to be there, like from these committee members or anyone, who's going to buy the house? Nobody's going to buy the house. One side they are saying like the traffic report is good. We are paying I am paying like almost $600 for the car insurance. Because once the residential buildings, like the multi-stories building is going to be there, nobody's going to buy a house in our street where we can go. Like we are immigrants, we did hard work. Now tomorrow, my kids, they're going to a college. If I want to sell the house and pay their tuition fee and everything, if nobody's going to buy the house, then how I'm going to pay their tuition fee and everything? So that's how I want to say.
Okay, thank you very much. So City Clerk, just confirming we have no further delegations.
Mr. Chair, we do have Isho Nano. There was some feedback, but Isho has put their question in the chat, and I'll just read it. Can you please ask Steve Ganesh how this third change benefits the community, as there is now office proposed for the benefit of the developer, not our community? I would like some reasoning behind this thought. Thank you.
Through the chair, thanks very much for the question, Isho. As I indicated earlier, the proposed office is going to be a sort of a headquarters for the developer. So really, it's not a large-scale office per se, but just enough office space for the developer. I hope that answers your question.
And thank you, Steve. And then the Ayushu Nano has also asked, how far am I expected to walk to have access to consumer goods, and how does this serve our community in terms of the answer you just provided?
Thank you through to you to the chair. Well, the existing retail on site just adjacent to the vacant lands has a variety of uses. I was on the site 2 weeks ago and noted that there's a doctor's office, pharmacy, and whatnot. In terms of larger scale retail goods, I'm not aware of the closest one nearby to this particular property.
Thank you, Steve. Mr. Chair, there was a delegate identified as Ravi Sharma. I do not see a Ravi Sharma in the session this evening. I see a Ravi Virk. I don't know if that is the same person. And I'm just going to unmute Ravi Virk just to confirm. Ravi Virk, are you? Did you register as Ravi Sharma to address committee this evening? Ravi Virk? So, Mr. Chair, that concludes the delegations that we have registered this evening that have identified or expressed an interest to participate, and we've been able to make contact with.
Okay, thank you very much. And City Clerk, just to advise, is it better that we move receipt of the delegations in correspondence contained in item 11.1 before we proceed to committee questions?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes. And then if there is if a deferral motion is considered at some future date, then any additional delegations would have to register at that additional date. But committee can move a motion now to receive the correspondence and receive the delegations.
Okay, thank you very much. So I do have Councillor Williams, who has moved to receive the delegations as well as receive the correspondence contained in 11.1, and the motion reads as follows: that the delegations and correspondence to the Planning Development Committee meeting of March 8th regarding application to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw, Jindal Development Limited, G-Force Planners, Jindal Developments, on Control Boulevard, Ward 6, be received. Is there anyone opposed to this motion? Otherwise, your vote will count in the affirmative. Okay, there are no objections, so the motion carries. Now, committee, we have a staff report before us, and I do see our list, and I'll go to Councillor Fortini, who was the first to request to speak after the delegation, followed by Councillor Williams, and then Councillor Singh. So first to you, Councillor Fortini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and that's why, first of all, I wanted to thank all the delegates to coming in. I know Ravi, Cynthia, I talked to Tony for taking his time, walking me around on Saturday, and this is why I wanted to defer it, because talking to these people, note the developer when they were here last time said they were going to meet with the residents and hasn't met with them yet. And I was hoping to do it until before the next planning meeting, give them another chance to meet. But I guess there was delegations, and I guess councillors wanted them to speak. So, I looked at the site, and I hear all the concerns of these residents, and they got 1,200 people signing a petition against this. Tony was nice enough to show me some drawings. I seen Cynthia put them all also up. Part of those homes there was supposed to be a parquet. So they had no parquet, and they were supposed to have a box plaza. Now they're doing this building. I will not support this, and I'm going to ask for a recorded vote, and I hope council does not support it. It will go to Al Pato and B, but at least we did our part to serve 1,200 signatures. Looking at the site, and I look at the houses facing the south and on the west, I wouldn't want to open my window. None of us councillors would want to open our window and look outside and see an 8-story building at 7.5 meters away. So I got to support these residents. I agree with them, and I always was in favor of height and townhouses or stacked townhouses. But when I look at this location, it's just not suitable for that little area there, that little corner. So I'm going to ask for a recorded vote. I will not support it. I'm supporting my residents. To have 1,200 signatures, and I have to agree with them 100%. It's not suitable for the area. And the worst is, one of that block there was supposed to be a parquet when they bought there, and then also from parquet it became homes. I think if the residents would have townhouses there or semis or homes, they wouldn't say no, or a plaza. But to do a high 8-story building, it's not suitable for the area. So I'm going to ask for a recorded vote, Mr. Chair, and I will not support this, and I hope the council supports it for that going forward. Thank you.
So Councilor Fortini, you're moving a motion to oppose the staff recommendations.
Yes, and ask also recorded vote, please.
Okay, so noted. Our next speaker is Councilor Williams.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Yeah, thank you all the residents who came out to speak today. This matter came before us during the last term of council, and residents were so concerned that they brought up this concern while I was campaigning. So I heard about this at the door back in 2018, and hearing them now, their opinions of this have not changed. You know, residents, you know, when you invest in a home, you make a commitment to live in the area that you're choosing to live in. And when they bought their home, they were promised a grocery store. And, you know, two things that people always look for in a house is the kitchen and proximity to a grocery store. Those are huge selling features. And I'm sure that many of those who are living there are still, this is what we heard. They're expecting this. So, you know, based on all of the constituents' concerns, and they have voiced so many concerns, they still haven't been heard yet. I cannot suppose the proposed changes. I do want to ask, though, there was the recommendation that the developer meet with the residents. Is it still possible? I know Councilor Fortini has moved a motion to you know, not accept the delegations, but if we are going to another step, why not have a town hall? I'm just throwing that out there. I think.
Well, Councilor Williams, he's effectively opposing the recommendations. So opposing the recommendations based on what happens on the vote, really, then it's up to you if in fact the vote that it does move forward, then there might be an opportunity, but I don't see that there would be an opportunity if the opposition to the recommendations is upheld.
Right. So, you know, I think at this point, if the residents, if there are opportunities there for us to hear from the developer and the residents, get them in front of each other. You know, maybe a referral to staff to plan a town hall would be a good next step. So I guess in what you're saying, Councilor Medeiros, is that if this fails, then the next step then would be a town hall?
I'll let the city clerk. City clerk, can you please advise on process?
Through you, Mr. Chair, if the committee refuses the application tonight, and that is adopted by council at its March 24th meeting, then the item has been decided. There are appeal rights available to the applicant, and should council or committee or the ward councillors wish to have a town hall on possible use for that property, presumably that would be a matter that should involve the property owner, or there's nothing precluding a town hall, but this development application will have been decided by then.
Okay, so I think I would like to refer it back to staff to plan a town hall, at least by the 24th. We could do a quick turnaround to give residents an opportunity and the developer an opportunity to be before us. And we discuss on the 24th. So I would like to refer it back to staff to plan a town hall.
Thank you, Councillor Williams, but we have to deal with the motion first of Councillor Fortini. Is that correct, City Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Chair, a referral motion is a proper motion. So the main motion is the refusal of the application, and a procedural motion has been moved by Councillor Williams to refer this back to staff for further review and presumably a town hall, and that would take precedent. So we now are in a referral debate on the referral motion. Okay, and there's no debate on the referral? Through you, Mr. Chair, there is debate on the referral. It is only on the merits of the deferral, or excuse me, of the referral, my apologies.
Yeah, so we have a referral on the floor by Councillor Williams, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Williams. Our next speaker is Councillor Singh.
Well, first of all, I wanted to start by also acknowledging all the delegations. It's not easy during COVID to participate in this process. So, you know, I commend them for taking time out and voicing their concerns. I see that we have a referral back to staff now for additional consultations. I used to actually live in this area, so I know this area well as well. I just live down the street. So I do have major concerns. So I will see what my colleagues have to say. But from a personal standpoint, I'm ready to just vote on this, but I'll see what my colleagues have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Singh. Councillor Fortini, you're next on the board, but since you spoke already, I'm going to go to Councillor Palashi if you're okay with that.
Absolutely.
Okay, Councillor Palashi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I think we heard a lot of the residents say that they would have liked a town hall, and we've been in this situation before. We think, you know, town halls is a perfect opportunity to bring the developer, the residents together and try and work through some of the issues. Essentially, what we don't want is for this to go to the LPAT. We want to be able to deal with it here, and I think we want the residents and the developers to come to some sort of understanding by way of having that meeting with the area councillors. So that being said, I'm happy to support the referral. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, I do see Councillor Dillon. I'll go to you before I go to Councillor Fortini. Councillor Dillon. Councillor Dillon? Okay, you might be having technical issues. I'll go to you, Councillor Fortini. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And that's why I wanted to have the deferral. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, you know, it's been 3 years in the make, and this developer has not been mean with the residents until now. And now we want to have a town hall. I don't think so it's going to happen, because if he wanted to meet, he would have done it already. So that's why I wanted to just vote on it tonight. No, it will go to LPAT. That's fine. We did our job as a council to not support it, and let them deal with it there. They've been trying to get a hold of the developer, and as some residents said, no phone number. They can't get a hold of him. They can't contact him. He's not returning. He did say he wanted to meet with the residents when they came. This application came before, and now at the end they cannot get a hold of it. So having a town hall is going to be a waste of time. So I'm not going to accept the town hall because I don't think so it's going to do any benefit. And I'm ready to vote on it no, and let them deal with the LPAT. And as I said, after the deferral, since it's on, I'm going to ask for a recorded vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Fortini. Councillor Dillon. Councillor Dillon.
Councillor Dillon, your mic is muted at the moment.
Yeah, can you hear me, Chair?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I had some technical issues before. I think, you know, since we've had a number of residents delegate today, I've had, I know myself, I'm sure all of council has had a number of emails and calls written to them, and I think that I can't support the referral motion just because I don't see what will be accomplished by that. We've had a public meeting. I think there's been all the information has been presented to us, and so I agree with Councillor Fortini. I think we just need to vote on it because I think it's just kicking the can down the road just for another 2 weeks. And you know, there's unless the applicant changes their application, which I don't see they'll do within or after 2 weeks. I don't think there's a point. I think we just take the vote, and whichever way council decides, we go in that direction. But you know, hearing, you know, Councillor Fortini as well, and hearing the residents, I think we just vote on it today.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dillon. Councillor Vicente.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess today I'm going to be in the minority on this one. Reading this report from staff, staff have given a positive report to this project, and I just want to share, just so that folks understand the reasoning for my sense that this project should go ahead. It's important that residents in the city of Brampton understand that this entire city was built upon agricultural lands. And there isn't a single spot in the city today where folks don't currently live, except for on the west end of the city. And when we receive an application for some infill or for some densification, this is just the kind of development that we need here in the city of Brampton. We're a very low density city. We have residents who express to us on a daily basis that they pay a high share of the tax bill. And one of the solutions that we know is a key to solving this problem, in addition to bringing more jobs to the city, it's also in bringing in denser development. This particular project is located immediately adjacent to transit corridor and transit service. It's located close to the school, and the staff report notes that the school has the capacity. It's located to amenities and parks, etc. And I realize that it's important to support the residents, but this is a very beautiful proposal. It's very clear, at least to me, that the developer has put quite a bit of time into considering the opinions and what has been expressed by the residents, particularly those who feel that a high rise in their backyard would remove privacy, etc. The building is well proportioned. It has setbacks that have been incorporated, and in every definition, this is a building which we would consider to be gentle densification. The townhomes that sit along the residential portion at the back offer sufficient privacy to the residents along that portion of the parcel. And I have driven by this parcel many times before. The traffic considerations are being taken care of by the developer with the incorporation of that turning lane. And I just want to point out that at the region of Peel, through our planning committee there, we're coming to a realization that as we move forward, half of all of the development in this city going forward needs to be based on high density development, because that is what properly supports tax base. It's what will support our transit corridors. And you know, when I think about a building of this size, and I think about, for example, areas in the city of Toronto, for example, Yorkville. Yorkville is a very mature neighborhood in the city of Toronto, where gentle densification and medium density buildings have been built over the course of the years. And no one would say that in that area that property values have been negatively impacted. If anything, it has enriched that neighborhood and brought in more people and more vibrancy and more opportunity for business. As part of our economic development plan, this type of project will bring more jobs, and it incorporates some office uses as well. And so again, I feel like today I'm on the minority, and that's okay. This is a democracy. Council will decide. And I think that it's clear that the local councillors believe that they need to support the residents, and that's fine. But I'm going to be supporting the staff report, which I think some people have already said may be upheld by LPAT or some other at some other stage. And so that's my view, Mr. Chair, and I'll give back the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vicente.
Through Mr. Chair, if I might just provide some bit of information just for council's benefit, just to going to the vote relating to the referral. Just wanted to advise council that myself and staff have spoken with the owner, Mr. Jindal, about the previous request for a town hall. And so Mr. Jindal had noted quite clearly to me that he didn't feel that he wanted to have a town hall. He felt really that his current application was appropriate in every way and really wasn't willing to make changes to the application at this point in time, and really was not really willing to go forward, and have a town hall meeting as well. So I know that Mr. Jindal is on the line, and maybe there might be a desire to have a question to him as to whether he's he changed his mind in that respect. But just wanted to share through the council what we've heard today.
Thank you, Alan. So my next speaker is Councillor Santos.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So I guess, for clarification, the referral back to staff is a referral so that a town hall can take place. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Councillor Santos.
Thank you. And Alan has just shared that the developer is not interested in having a town hall meeting. Alan, is that correct?
That is correct, Ms. Santos, yep.
And my teammate, Councillor Paul Vicente, has shared a lot of sentiments that I also would agree with. It is a positive staff report, and he articulated kind of clearly and consistently with how we've been approaching various applications such as this. One question is if this does not proceed, if we deny it this evening, what are the ramifications or the consequences should the developer go to LPAT? Because I've heard in the past that it's possible that LPAT could come back with more density in a situation where residents would even oppose it more. Is that a possibility if we say no this evening?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. So, Councillor Santos, I do have the understanding that yes, there is an opportunity for the applicants to make some modification to their application, if it is that the application's appealed and as it's going towards the LPAT. I know we have legal staff online, and they might be able to provide some clarification on maybe the extent of changes that can occur. But if it was that there are full-scale changes, I think the LPAT would ask that there be some additional public process. But have seen, though, that there is fairly significant change that can occur to an application as well without any further public process. So perhaps I'll just leave it at that.
Well, thank you. I mean, I have seen applications in the past and been notified through various other planning meetings that, density comes back even more intense than what was originally proposed. So that is always a concern as well. And as Councillor Vicente had articulated, this is pretty moderate and gentle compared to some other projects and other applications that have come forward in the past. So I will be with Councillor Vicente on this one, simply because we consistently have voted on things like this when it comes to future planning of the city and supporting intensification projects such as this. So thanks, everyone. And I do thank the delegates for sharing this evening many of their concerns as well.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Santos. So Councillor Williams, as your motion for referral, as staff has suggested, would you like to pose your question directly to the owner of Jindal Developments, if they'd be open to having a town hall?
Yes, I would. I think it would be great to hear from him if he's willing to do a town hall and face some of the residents that have been looking for the opportunity to speak with him.
So, Mr. Chair, my advice is if we are receiving the property owner as essentially a delegate to respond to questions, the agenda should be open so we can add this person to the agenda.
Okay, so what would we require to do that?
Just a simple 2/3 vote, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so does anyone have a motion moved by Councillor Williams to reopen the agenda? Is there anyone opposed?
Yeah, Dylan.
Okay, Councillor Dylan opposes. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm gonna oppose to that since he hasn't met until now, unless he's willing to. So, Mr. Clerk, is he gonna speak tonight?
Yeah, that's why we're adding him to be able to speak.
That's fine. If he speaks now, that's fine. I'll support it.
Okay, anyone else opposed? No, okay. So we have a motion by Councillor Williams and we have Councillor Dillon opposing. So it's carried. So, City Clerk, can I ask the owner to speak?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Pushup Jindal is in the meeting now, and you can address the committee. Pushup.
Good night, everybody who is in the meeting, and particularly the public. My name is Pushup Jindal, and I'm the owner of this property. When I bought this property back in 2017, I knew that this property is zoned for another commercial development. Immediately, I took the steps to have this property developed with a commercial development. And I went into the market, I went into the prospective tenants, I went into my contacts who would maybe lease this property so that I can develop that as a commercial property. If you see my first plan, I proposed the commercial development on the ground floor with about 5 or 6 large units so that I can have a bank here, I can have a daycare here, I can have a large grocery store here. I approached all of those prospective tenants. Everybody discouraged me. Bank tells me we are reducing the branches, we are not increasing the branches. Daycare tells me the community where this property is, those communities are not very prone for child care, like drop the child at the child care and go work. They have parents at home to take care of the kids. The grocery stores are winding down. There is no room for large grocery stores, particularly for Indian grocery stores. And there is already a grocery store half a kilometer down the road. So it was figured it out with the real estate guys and the commercial guys. Everybody said, no, you cannot develop this property with a commercial property. It will be vacant. Even if you develop it, if you build the stores, no one is going to lease it. There is already every use available in the plaza. Doctor, pharmacy, pizza, chiropractor, opto, tuition center, a small grocery, a small food restaurants, and everything is available there. There is no other tenant which I can bring additional tenants on this commercial property. So my thought turns to the residential development. The first thing which I saw.
Sorry, again, I think that I appreciate that you're speaking, but the purpose was to see if you're open to a town hall or not. So it's not to go over the rationale of the application. So, Mr. Jindal, Councillor Williams had requested you would like to, if you would be open to having a town hall.
I will not be able to do a town hall because I tried it. I did it with the residents, but the residents were threatening. Even today, the delegation, one of the delegations say we are going to have a hunger strike and we are going to replace the councillors if this is not done. Like, I don't want to deal with the people who don't want to talk to me in a proper manner and in a knowledgeable manner. The only thing which you're saying is we don't support it. They don't have anything else to say. So I am not willing to do it.
Okay, thank you very much and appreciate it. So I'll go now. Councillor Williams as the mover of the motion. How would you like to proceed?
I will withdraw my motion since Mr. Jindal has spoken, saying that he wouldn't be willing to entertain it. Thank you, Mr. Jindal, for being able to come forward and give us an answer on that. And so I do withdraw my motion from the floor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Williams. So now, Councillor Fortini, would you like to come back? So from a procedural perspective, Councillor I mean, City Clerk, can Councilor Fortini reintroduce, or can we just consider it?
Through you, Mr. Chair, his motion still is on the floor and stands with the withdrawal of the referral motion.
Okay, great. So are there any further questions to the motion?
I'd still like to speak to Mr. Chair.
Okay, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, and and I appreciate what Councilor Vicente said, about Yorkville, $4,000 a square foot compared to Brampton. But I've always pushed for development. And I want height. I need townhouses. I need stacked townhouses because I know the young generation cannot afford homes. But I want Councilor Vicente or other people that don't know the area well to actually go take a drive there. And, I've been around and I've been in the high-rise construction. I've seen it. And it's not nice when you look in your backyard and you're going to see a building. Half of those homes don't even get sun now. And, we're going to put an 8-story. It's going to block it completely. And it's not right, especially when they have drawings there. There was supposed to be a parkette on the other side. And they put more homes. So, when you get all these signatures and all these people complaining, that's not what they buy. I think we as a council have to do what the residents say. They want to go to all path. That's fine. It's only going to delay one more year. And going back to Councilor Santos, I do get what you're saying. You're absolutely right. Sometimes we do get a little bit height. But if you actually look at this block, it's very hard to go any higher than this. You can't get any more than that in height. And yes, and it does happen sometimes. Maybe they might stack. Instead of having 72, they might hit 86. And I do agree with you. But they won't get much more on that. That's a piece of land that's there. That's what's there. So I'm going to remove a motion, and I want to record a vote. I'm not supporting it. And on March 24th, we have council. We can always take a second crack at it. And there'll be also the mayor there to vote on it, since he said that he was not going to support it. And we can vote on it again on March 24th in council. So I'm going to ask for a recorded vote for tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Fortini. I do see next on the board, Councilor Singh. For clarification.
Yeah, just for clarification, so the motion on the floor that Councilor Fortini is putting is to refuse the application, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So a vote in favor would be a vote in favor of refusing the application.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so are there any further questions or comments? So I'll hand it to you, City Clerk, for a recorded vote to refuse to the staff report regarding application, the official plan zoning bylaw, budgetal developments to the Planning and Development Committee of March 8th be received, and that the application be refused. So I'll hand it over to you, City Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just a reminder, in accordance with the Planning Act, if a decision is for an application is refused, there must be reasons given included in the notice of the refusal that is sent out, and specifically there must be a brief explanation of the effect, if any written submissions have had on council's decision, as well as any reasons in terms of any oral submissions have had on council's decision. So just a reminder for members of council that may be something that may have to be considered at the council meeting on March 24th if city council wishes to proceed with this recommendation if it carries. So a recorded vote has been requested on a refusal as shown on the screen. All in favor of refusing the application, please indicate. Councillor Dillon. Councillor Dillon? I'll come back to you. Councillor Singh?
Yes, in favor.
Councillor Fortini?
Yes, in favor.
Councillor Williams?
Yes, in favor.
Councillor Bowman?
Yes.
Councillor Paleshi?
No.
Councillor Willens?
No.
Councillor Vicente?
No.
Councillor Santos?
No.
Councillor Dillon? Mr. Chair, I do not see Councillor Dillon in the meeting at the moment.
I think he's having technical problem again. Speaking to the motion.
So, Chair Medeiros, how do you vote?
Yes.
So, Mr. Chair, that motion carries 5-4.
Okay, thank you. we now move on to.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, 5-4. Who didn't vote?
Councillor Dillon.
Councillor Dillon is absent. He has not voted.
Okay, thank you so much. Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we move on to, I believe, if I'm not correct, councillor question period.
That's correct,
Mr. Chair. Do have any questions regarding today's committee meeting? No. Okay, we'll move on.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Councillor, Chair Medeiros, I was having technical issues. I had to log out and log in.
Okay.
I've been having the whole meeting for some reason.
Okay. Would you like to record your vote now for the city clerk?
Yes, I wanted to. Well, I'm assuming. I guess the vote has passed, but I wanted to. So the vote. It was to refuse the application. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes. So I support refusal of the application.
So through you, Mr. Chair, I'll correct the recorded vote, as that request happened immediately after the vote, and the refusal carries 6-4.
Okay, so duly noted. Thank you. We go now on to public question period. City Clerk, do we have any questions from members of the public?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do not, but I believe Councillor Fortini wanted to ask a question under Councillor question period.
Okay, go back to Councillor Fortini. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to the clerk. So on this part where we lost the vote, this could be reopened in the minutes for March 24th. Council, take a second vote.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is a recommendation this evening of the Planning Committee to refuse the application. That decision has to be ratified by Council on March 24th, and City Council, as the superior body, is within its right to ratify, to amend, or to change that decision so that as they see fit, and they will have to take a vote on that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Public question period. And City Clerk, I believe you said there was no questions from the public?
There are none, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. We now go to adjournment. Our next committee meeting is Monday, March 22nd at 1 p.m. So I do have a motion moved by Councillor Vicente to adjourn tonight's meeting, that the Planning Development Committee do now adjourn to meet again on Monday, March 22nd at 1 p.m. or at the call of the chair. Does anyone oppose? No? Okay, so the meeting is now adjourned. Stay home, stay safe and stay healthy, practice physical distancing, and wear a face mask. Good night, everyone. Thank you to all the staff for tonight's work.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of committee. We're just going to wait for the live stream to end momentarily.